Welcome and welcome back. Today I have got a special guest with me. We're going to be talking about everything you need to know about leagues, some of the beginner tips and tricks. Mr. Doubleshine, please take it away after I move myself to the other side of the screen.
I'm Doubleshine. I do leagues videos. You might have seen my day one starter route from last year for Leagues 4. Might have seen it for this year as well. I basically have been covering this content, kind of got my start, and really excited to kind of have a chat today, going over some of the beginner stuff. I know a lot of people have been asking about that, covering some tips and tricks, some region strategy, as well as getting your combat masteries. So hopefully we'll get into that today.
Sounds good. Yeah, it's been busy, and then I got a little bit sick, and life just kind of happens, doesn't it? So looking forward to it.
I guess I'm curious, what how's this league's been for you, I guess, or I guess the preseason, right? Because it's not even leagues yet. It's weird because I feel like it's been so busy, but it's like preseason basically.
Well, this was definitely a very, very, very busy time for me. So originally, I did some leagues videos last year, and some of that was I saw you doing some stuff, and I'm like, ooh, let me try a couple of informational things. So I was like, okay, yeah, I can try doing something like that. But I didn't do a lot of them. So I think I ended up doing 3 videos, pick your first area, maybe your first relic, and then something else. And then I basically just focused in on making progress videos for the league. So I knew after having done that and kind of seeing the reception from everybody of, everybody really loved the information videos. The progress videos did fine. They still did pretty well for the channel at the time, but a lot of people seem to really like that information stuff. And so I was like, okay, well, next time leagues comes around, I definitely want to have some sort of plan in place where I'm really going to be pumping out a ton of stuff. So area reviews, daily videos, anything else that I can kind of get out. So that was kind of my plan coming into it. But I also didn't expect that they'd do another league this year. I thought we would have another year. So I'm sitting over here chilling. I've got my normal content planned. And then they did the summit and they were oh, by the way, leagues in 2 months. And I was like, oh my God, papers going everywhere. I'm throwing my plans out. I'm screw it, I gotta get my leagues plan going. So that's kind of how I started into this. And it's a little bit unfortunate because I had planned on having more time off to be able to do a little bit more in the preseason and going into leagues. But just because I wasn't expecting it, I just don't have that time off. So, just trying to kind of make it work as we do.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I'm really excited for, I guess in general for this more seasonal content creators, the ones who cover leagues and deadman mode and stuff like that is mainly, I think, if they're going to be doing leagues every year, I think that's really fun. And it's a big thing I worried about. I think last year was leagues was over and I was okay, well, am I gonna have to wait 18 months for the next league cycle again? That sounds awful. So it's been, I'm really glad that it's back, even though I was also not really ready for it to be that busy. So.
Yeah, come on though, you are the leagues guy, right? You got all that leagues
I think last year that's kind of where my channel exploded, but in general I think there's a lot more people now who are doing league stuff in general.
For sure.
I'm just glad to see it kind of growing overall. I think that's a big reason why I kind of wanted to do more of these chats and stuff like that, just because there are content creators I think who are just covering this stuff, not just I guess big streamers who just play it, and those are fun too, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I'm kind of excited for the new wave.
Yeah, well, and I don't know how true this is. I think that you played a big part in that last year. So I didn't see a lot of other channels who grew in the same way that you did last year. So I know we talked about this a little bit before, you were the inspiration for me to come into leagues because, oftentimes when I'm looking in the RuneScape space, as much as I enjoy seeing stuff like Solo Mission, who puts out these sort of really highly edited videos for leagues, he does this sort of progress series thing. That takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of time. And with myself, I'm not doing this full time at the moment. So I only have so much time that I can, fit in to make videos and also play the content as well. I want to be able to play the league. It's enjoying it as a player. So trying to find that balance. And I think it was really helpful to see you do that. And I imagine that a lot of people probably saw your success in the last league as well, because your day one guide, I think really blew up last year. 110,000 views or something like that. And, on a channel well, I'm sure you have a better picture of this than I do. You were sub 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah, it was really tiny. That video. I think the day one route was really good, but I also think it was I think for me a big thing was like the daily reveal stuff.
Yeah.
I think at the time I was like really the only person who was covering them, and now there's like a lot more people who are covering them, which I think is kind of cool because I do think that that discussion is pretty interesting. And so I'm not okay. I'm not saying I was like the first person, but I think
You were no.
like
I mean,
like
well,
I think a lot more people started to get into that space. So I will kind of, I guess, take a little credit there. So, but no, it's cool to see everybody else's. Like, I really like it actually, because even after I'm still doing that this year and stuff. But filming, like, after I film mine, it's kind of cool to go watch what everybody else has to say, and then be like, oh God, was I horribly wrong about this? One thing I think that I really liked was, and it's actually why I think it's a big reason why I reached out to you, was because I think your like region dives were really good this year, and that's something that I think a lot of people like, and it's easy. Well, not like easy, but it's possible to do without really needing to know that much about like the regions or like the relics and all that stuff. So
yeah.
I'm honestly, like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm so glad that you're doing that, because I was like, I don't want to do that this year again. I know it's a lot of work. I don't think other people realize how much work it is. So like, I commend you for it, because yeah, that's a lot to go through.
I'm happy to take the mantle. I mean, I think that's also what kind of helped put me on the map for leagues this year, because I was a little worried when I was initially doing, like putting them out, because I was like, it's kind of far away from leagues. So I wasn't really sure if people were going to care about it quite yet. So I think my first one went out like a month and a half before leagues. But knowing all the other content I wanted to put out, I was like, well, I kind of have to like do this soon. So I just pushed one out, and I'm like, if this one doesn't do well, I can always wait. I can make a few in the background and then like start it a little bit closer to leagues. But I couldn't wait that long because I wanted to like cover the daily releases and kind of like be up on that information. So I was definitely really happy to see like people seem to enjoy the sort of like deep dives into the areas. And they kind of like helped give me a little bit more momentum, and then people were actually like, paying attention to me when I'm like there to cover the daily leaks and whatever, or reveals. So many people are telling me they're not leaks. They
Oh no, yeah, I got that shit so much last year. Like, that's why I switched it from like leaks to the raging reveals, because every day I'd get comment, it's not a leak if it's an official. I was like, shut up, okay, it sounds good, all right. I don't know what I'm gonna do next year when they come up with some other leak. I'm gonna have to think some other cool little name. But yeah, I think I'm kind of like, that's cool, because I think at first I did the starting regions, and I thought like, oh, starting regions, good video, move on. Kind of thematic with like, because I do think I don't want to talk about like some of the more not like beginner stuff, but just like if this is your first time playing leagues, I do kind of want to address that today. But yeah, I wanted to make like a starter region, like deep dive, and then that went way better considering how uninteresting those two regions are. So yeah, it's cool to see that same thing's kind of happening to you.
Yeah. I mean, well, and it is like, I don't know. I guess to go a little bit behind the scenes for it, like for me, it's always that game of like, how much time do I have to be able to put something together? And part of the reason I really like doing things like the daily reveals or the area deep dives is because I can put together that sort of like presentation, and like, if that's downtime that I've got, I don't have to necessarily be on the game and like walking around the area to do that, which is maybe a little bit more challenging, because then I have to be at home, I have to be like here in order to like load up the client, walk through and everything. Whereas like I can kind of go back and forth to those presentations, like I've got like a big work call or whatever. People aren't really talking to me, so yeah, maybe I'd like spend a little bit of time, like grab a little image, drop it on there, do a little bit of research, whatever, right? So it's a little bit easier to like multitask them out. And then when I actually have dedicated time, like I get home after work, I'm able to go through my presentation and just kind of like talk it out. And that's basically a video. I haven't done a lot of edits on pretty much any of the league stuff, just because I don't really have that much time. So if you compared it with like maybe some of my progress series videos, or playing the game, but it's the year 2007, like some of the other content on the channel, it'll be really obvious that there's like not a lot of editing into it. But it's because like I just don't have the time, but I have a lot of content that I want to cover for leagues. So, I cut out the blanks in the audio. Like that's about it. Maybe I'll do like one thing like here or there. I mean, really, that's pretty much all I do.
Yeah, oh man. Speaking of which, I think on one of my last videos, I forgot, because I was so tired at this point. It's pretty early. Like the reveals are like 7 a.m. for me. I was so tired. And I forgot I like left out a blank, and everyone just like, bro, did you just like did you have a stroke on stream? I was just like sitting there like eyes are empty, and I'm just like, oh god, that's so embarrassing.
I
I just
thought
let
it
us
was
say,
so
you know,
funny.
screw it. Everybody likes it at this play. I'll leave it in.
No,
Whatever.
I thought it was funny, and it was definitely people talk about like what is it, like a pattern interrupt. It was like, this relic is bad,
Yeah,
and
yeah. I'm like,
I'm sitting there like, wait, what happened? And I like had to look. You know, I was like, I stopped what I was doing, and I'm like, wait, what happened here? And then he picked it back up, and I'm like, oh, probably just
yeah, no.
forgot a
I was
cut,
just
but I
listen.
thought
I
it was
just
funny.
had a little moment there. All right, just struggling.
You really emphasize whatever point you were making right before.
Yeah, I try to, but also because I like actually stumble a lot, which is probably something you'll notice talking to me live. Is I feel like I kind of code switch a lot, and my casual chatting is I don't know, I slur my words a lot, and so I have to do a lot of retakes.
Oh, hey, no worries. I mean, I think I probably sound way more, I don't know, speedy in the videos compared to like when I'm normally talking, and it's because I often pause when I'm thinking about stuff just a lot, and even sometimes I'll like say a word kind of long, and then I'm like thinking, I'm just like, ah. So I think it happens to all of us.
All right, well, let's say we get into some league stuff. We've been chatting, which is good. Which is I have all the time in the world to chat, but
No,
I
that's
mean,
fair. We are
let's
supposed to be talking
talk
about
some
leagues,
league.
yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. I just feel like we should at least start with some league stuff and then see how that goes. So, I guess like the biggest thing, and I think one thing that I'm sure you've gotten a lot of questions about, and in general, is just from people who are like first time playing leagues or who are coming back and they haven't played the main game in a while. And so I think kind of like something we wanted to do today was just talk about some strategies for those people. So picking your regions, picking your relics. I know a lot of people are probably having a lot of like choice paralysis right now because I think there are so many viable options this time, that I can understand why somebody who might be coming fresh to the game has really no clue what to do. So I don't blame them.
Yeah. Well, and I think especially when you come into leagues, a lot of the content leading up to leagues, I feel like there's a lot of conversations around like doing things the most optimally. It's like, get the best build that there is, you know, follow this specific path to like get your regions as quickly as possible or unlock relics or whatever. And I think especially like, I guess my common advice for folks coming into leagues is to not forget to have fun, which like sounds a little funky, right? You know, it's like, oh, you know, make sure you have fun. But at the same time, like I've been guilty of this in past leagues as well, where I like really hone in on efficiency and then like the account isn't that fun at the end. I mean, I myself, I have a couple of accounts, so I can kind of like, I can do that once and then go back and try again, but not everybody has that. So I think it's important, like, just to kind of open it up, you know, make sure that you have fun. You know, you can have those fun choices. You don't have to pick the harpoon because it's like the most efficient. Go with the woodcutting relic. You know, I call it a trash can all the time, but whatever. You don't like woodcutting? Take the woodcutting relic, you know?
Yeah, I guess maybe we can start then with like how do you pick your regions and stuff like that, because actually I think the very first leagues video I ever made was a region strategy video, and it was on like, I think I had MS Paint up and I was just like throwing images together. It was awesome. Well, no, it's really bad, but nostalgic for sure. So I guess like let's talk about like region strategy a bit. Like how do you pick your regions, and what would you say is like the best way to pick, I guess? Or I guess we could start with how do you pick them first.
Sure. You know, for me, I think most of the time what I'm doing is I will set some sort of goal for the league. So like for me last year, that was I want to do the Inferno. And so like having some type of goal in mind, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that. I mean, you could also, like we've got all of the different Echo bosses that are coming out this year. So maybe you've got one of those items that you think is really cool. Like maybe your goal is to make a build around, you know, the Hespori nature salamander thing, right? And that's normally where it starts for me, because that'll kind of direct the types of gear that you want to do. And that normally that's kind of like the big decision factor, I think, for most regions, is like, what gear do you want to have available to you? So like with the Inferno, it was, well, I'm likely going to want to do some sort of range build. So I'll probably want to pick up Asgarnia, so I have a crossbow that's really strong, because that's going to be helping me take down Zuck. And then I kind of like start to build it out from there.
Yeah, I think for me, very similar to that, where I start with a goal in mind, because like I think you can approach the game in so many different ways, and also some people's goals are going to be sort of contradictory to others as well. So like, for example, if you are somebody who's going for top 100, your advice on how you pick your regions is incompatible with basically the entire player base, because the only thing you care about is the maximum number of points. And if you're not a top 100 player, you're not even getting close to that. So it's not even something to consider, right? And
Yeah.
like that's the most extreme example, but like there's other things too. I think like for me, for example, I'm going to be playing enough leagues where realistically I can probably get Dragon Cup with any region, any relic combination, like just on sheer amount of hours I'll be playing. Um,
Yeah.
but you know, for somebody who doesn't have that many hours, I know every single year people make the same mistake where they pick raid region, super PVM
Oh
region, and
man.
then like you know they spend you know a couple hours, like 20 hours, and they don't have their mega rare yet, and it's like okay, well all the tasks mean you need to do more TOB, and then at a certain point, I think a lot of people just start to say like, okay, well I've why don't I just go back to the main game and do TOB then?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot of people end up trapping themselves with like thinking in advance that they're going to complete every task when that's just not, I don't think that's the expectation. Like you should not expect, and the game doesn't expect you to complete every task. That's really for the super top end.
Yeah. No, and I definitely had that problem too of like, well, even last year for me, so when I was going towards trying to like beat the Inferno, I thought, oh, I'm gonna get not only the stuff in Asgarnia, which is farming God Wars, which takes a lot of time, farming next if you want to upgrade your crossbow, that takes a lot of time. But then I was like, oh, and I'll also go into the desert and do TOA. I think I did like 2 TOAs just to like get a couple of the easy tasks. But like that was it, because I just didn't have time to like go and get Mory's armor and like a twisted, well, there wasn't a twisted bow there last year. But it's like I couldn't get the upgraded armor for Mory's because I just didn't have the time. And it feels like so heartbreaking. I mean, I was still able to beat the Inferno, so it didn't matter. But like that was how I decided those regions, and it hurt. I was like, because there was just so much PVM, especially like God Wars. I think a lot of people, I know I've seen the sentiment a lot around Asgarnia. Like God Wars is a big grind. If you go dry on something, it really sucks. Like, great, you can kill things faster in leagues, but if you still have to kill like 700 Grodor, like it's still gonna take a long time. And do you really want to spend like 6-7 hours in God Wars dungeon killing Grodor? Like I think most people don't really want to do that, especially in leagues as like a temporary game mode. You kind of just want to get your stuff and like move on.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that like I when you mentioned God Wars dungeon, and for me, I think I got the horn for the Zerite crossbow. But I was a mage anyways, and I was like, you know what, I'm just not gonna go grind the rest of like, you need like the essence or whatever. I don't even remember what it is, like the nightingale dust or something. Like you need something to actually make the crossbow, and I was like, I don't care enough to do this. Like maybe if I was a ranger I would, but yeah. It's just like, yeah, even with like one raid, there's just a lot to do. So
yeah, it's just a lot of time. And I guess if we could use this to segue to, I guess one of my more general recommendations for people, especially I think this is true for this league since we got Combat Masteries and you can have multiple styles, is take a region that is going to give you like generally pretty good coverage for all of your gear. And I think especially too, if it's not going to require a lot of RNG. So like, I think there's 3 regions that fit this relatively well, being Varlamore, Morytania, and Asgarnia, because they all do a good job of covering all of your styles. Asgarnia is a little bit of like, you have that God Wars aspect, but you can also pick up Void, and Void doesn't require a lot of time. So you can still kind of get some coverage for your styles using Void. It's not the tankiest, but like just having something that can kind of help you in the early game. And then, with like Varlamore, you get Moons, and then with Morytania, you get Barrows. So both of those things I think are very easy to get into. And while yes, there is a little bit of RNG, like you don't necessarily need full sets to start getting benefits out of that stuff. You pull a weapon out of either of those, you're probably doing pretty well.
yeah, one thing that's kind of nice about the ones you listed, right, is Void. You'll be doing pest control. Now, I'm a little bit worried about pest control. I don't know how active it's going to be now that it no longer gives experience, which is kind of scary. But I think that first week or so, you'll probably be fine. There should still be boats going. There's probably just going to be like there's always a dedicated world to it. So I think there'll be enough people who are still going for Void. Just get it done early. One thing I actually like about Varlamore now is I was really worried about Varlamore because I thought that it would be kind of a pain to go grind out. There's a lot of downtime in the Perilous Moons, but they have a dupe prevention, right? You can't get another piece until you finish the set. And I think
Hmm.
that that is so good in leagues, especially like I think people are going to really find that that's like an awesome early head start where you're going to have all three of your gears basically covered. And honestly, you'll be fine with that gear until like very end game. Like you're never going to be sad using that. And I think you're going to come out of Perilous Moons like really happy with the five, like, or it's like, yeah, 5 times drop rate. Like, yeah, I think
Yeah.
you're going to blast through that content and just get all your gear super fast. It's not going to be the issue where you're going dry like you would in like Asgarnia or something like that. Or I guess for like if you're getting like Armadillo armor or something
Yeah.
or Bandos.
Oh my god, I killed so much Armadillo last year because I couldn't get, I don't remember what it was. It was either like the chain skirt or the top. I don't know which one, but I got so many of the other stuff. I was just like, oh please. I think I killed like 700 Arma. Oh, terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
like so important too. So you're just like, all
I
right, well,
know.
I'm just sitting here until I get it because there's nothing else worth doing in the game.
Yep.
So
But I also think too, I guess to go back to that point of like the 5 times drop multiplier, this year they're giving that to you like way earlier because before you had to like scale through and you basically didn't get it until like you were done getting all of your relics. So you had to kind of like, I mean, you didn't technically have to wait to PVM, but it definitely felt worse because, you know, you're going like 2 to 3 to 4 and then finally to 5. So like that being available, I think it's tier 4 this time around where you're like, you cap out there. So like, go for it, you know. And I think especially because like for me, I think tier 4 for, well, for most people is probably day 1. Like unless you're maybe not playing a lot, but I know a lot of people like that first day of leagues, they get really hyped. They're kind of like on the game, you know, 6, 8 hours, 12 hours, whatever. And like I think you can very easily get to tier 4 in like your first day, if not like your second day. And so then you don't have to worry anymore about like, do I need to wait for these drops? Like, no, because you get it so much sooner now, which I think is a really nice change.
yeah, no, I totally agree. And I honestly think that if you have played previous leagues and you didn't like it because you didn't like doing tasks, you didn't like having to go get that, you know, the final combat relic tier and stuff, I feel like this is like the perfect leagues because I really do think you can probably get tier 4 in, I would honestly say the first 5 or 6 hours. That's pretty conservative. Like if you actually kind of know what you're doing and you're following like a somewhat decent order and you're not just like fishing for half an hour, which like by the way, you can do that. Don't get me wrong, you
That'll
can
be
do that.
me.
You'll, yeah, you'll probably unlock it pretty easily and stuff like that. And then from there you can basically just ignore the entire game and go and do PVM and just have fun and go do bosses and do raids and like there's a lot of points from combat tasks as well, so you'll still be like catching up. Only thing really is like that one combat relic tier, but that is in my opinion so insignificant in the grand scheme of things that like you shouldn't make that a focus before you actually go and like enjoy the game.
Yeah. Well, and I think especially too, like that last tier of the combat relics, I think that's really more geared towards you want to try and push that end game content for like masteries or whatever, right? Like you're not going to need the revive when you're going through moons, or even if you're like
Yeah.
fighting Huey Coddle or whatever, right? Like Varlamore, yeah, you know, and even in a lot of the raids too. Yeah, it would be nice, but like, I mean, you can get through the raids. I don't think like a lot of them it won't really matter, and especially if you end up going in with like a small group, maybe. And I think for folks who aren't in the official league's Discord, I would highly encourage them to like go and join the official league's Discord because they've got those area dedicated chats, so you can find small groups if there's not just people like standing around in the lobby of the raids. And then you go in, you know, 2, 3, 4 people, and as long as you know someone at least kind of knows what they're doing, it doesn't even matter if you die in the raid, and then you'll just kind of come back for the next room or whatever. So I think, yeah, I wouldn't worry about that last combat tier until, you know, maybe like fighting the echo bosses. Sure, you know, I think some of those will be pretty tough. Fighting the Inferno or the Coliseum, yeah, makes a lot of sense. But you know, outside of those things, you can enjoy the majority of the game without them.
Yeah, I think it's a good point I want to make. Is like just don't don't underestimate how strong you are in leagues.
Yeah.
You get really powerful in leagues. Like it's really absurd. I think I talked about how with a rune knife and the tier 6 range relic, you do more damage, like almost twice as much damage as a full max like T-bow setup in the main game. Like it's really broken. Like
Disgusting.
you have a lot of you have a lot of damage. Like that's not going to be the issue, regardless of what regions you go. Like that's fine and stuff like that. And I think like there's a thing like don't let efficiency get in the way of fun or something like that. I'm probably butchering the quote, but I was willing to say that for last year's leagues because I remember I didn't even have the 5 times drop rate yet, and I was like, man, screw this. I'm sending some Tombs of a Masket. Like I'm just gonna go have fun and stuff because like I was getting a little bored of tasks. And it's not even like I was getting bored of tasks, just you do them for 4 days straight and you're like, okay, I want to like just go smack some bosses around.
Yeah.
And now I don't even think that's like something you have to think about anymore. You just can kind of do whatever you want and just have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's been really helpful. So like moving the drop rate up, and they also did this for the minigame multiplier too. So like they're both, once you get to tier 4, they're both capped out. I don't remember, was it like 8 times minigame points, I think, is where that one caps out at. But
Yeah, I think 8 times now.
yeah, because I remember, so like last year when I took the desert, I really was trying to avoid mage training arena, even though like you kind of need some early mage armor. Like that's probably one of the hardest things to come by in the game outside of like going to Barrows or maybe Varlamore to get a set. So like that really sucked because it was either you like just grit and bear it and you're like at the mage training arena for longer because you just don't have the multiplier, or you just had to wait until you were like up into, you know, like tier 7 relic or whenever that unlocked, and then you could finally go and do that. So like being able to go into those mini games as well and like not feel bad, because there's a lot of like skilling mini games, or you get things like pest control for void armor, you know, mage training arena for like infinity robe, stuff like that. So being able to get that stuff earlier on as well can also help to bridge some of those like PVM concerns too. So like you don't have to go and get your, I don't know, Virtus robes first or whatever, right? Because you have the ability to go and get some other things.
Yeah, I think this is something I do want to talk about, is that I feel like you can kind of let the multipliers guide your next piece of content in a way, right? So like you start the game, right? You're doing whatever. Go have fun, do some tasks. You can probably just mess around for an hour and you'll still get like 40 tasks completed, just if you're like doing literally anything productive. At the tier 2, you're getting 8 times experience, which I think is a good time to start doing some skilling stuff, you know, wood cutting, fishing, like you can get into that a little bit more. At the tier 3, that's when you're getting the double combat on top of the 8 times. So you're getting 16 times combat. And now it's like, okay, once you unlock tier 3, you can go do combat, because I feel like the multiplier is kind of guiding you in that direction. Tier 4, you're getting the drop rate, but then and then that minigame multiplier kicks in. And I would say honestly, tier 4, just start doing minigames. Like if you have them, I think it's not a bad time. If they have crazy experience attached to them, then you might want to wait. But like, I think that's like an interesting way, I think, of sort of letting the game sort of tell you what to do next. Because I think a lot of people do get that sense of like, I'm literally looking at, you know, 1,500 tasks. And it can be a little bit daunting, I would say, to look at that and not really know what you're supposed to do next. Even though you literally can do whatever you want next, it's just so much all at once.
Yeah, that's a fair point too. And I guess I would say, so like on the XP side of things, I know a lot of people, they're like, oh, I want to max, or I want to get the, you know, if they end up doing 25 mil XP tasks or 50 mil XP tasks this year as well, like people will say, oh, I want to like optimize to get to that stuff. But actually, like, you don't need it. You know, like you don't need it to get to Dragon Cup even. Like you could play the game, and like I've not even maxed, I don't think, in any of the leagues before, just because like there's always some skills that are really annoying to train. Like I don't like agility. If I don't get a relic pick that helps me with agility, I'm probably not going to get that up. And so it's just like, you can kind of just let it be. Like I don't think it has to be that big of a deal for folks. Great if you want to like go back and you want to get 99 on something, and especially for like, you know, Temperos is going to have a lot of XP for like fishing. You're going to get a lot of stuff for cooking. But like, do you have to wait until you're at the 16 times multiplier? I don't think so. And there'll be plenty of stuff that you can do in the game as well. So like you'll be passively earning that XP. And I mean, really, because of how the leveling system works anyway, a bulk of the XP is after 92. So like, you know, you're not really going to spend like that much time on a skill until you get up into that range. And it's not like there's a lot of stuff that's locked behind 92 plus of any skill. So like, I don't think you have to feel bad about going through and getting your skills up to like 80 or even 90, even if it's at those lower multipliers, because, you know, the curve for RuneScape is terrible, right? You know, halfway at 92, so you've got plenty of time.
And I feel like that's what, like, the 16 times multiplier is for your level 85, your level 90, and you just want to go grind a skill for an afternoon, right? That's what it's for. Or you want to go to 25 mil or 50 mil, right? Like, if you actually think about how much, most of the time it's probably going to save you like less than 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I was thinking about, I was like, oh, okay, I need to get level 5, because I was doing the starting route. I was like, okay, I need to get level 5 fishing. How can I plan this so that it's at 8 times instead of 5 times? And then I'm like, dude, it's like 2 shrimp, okay? Like, what am I, who cares? Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Gotta optimize, right? For 2 shrimp.
Yeah, like, I'm like, dude, like, it's, okay, you'll be here for 30 seconds more. That's actually something I always stress, is that, like, leagues is a marathon, not a sprint. I always say this because I think
Yeah.
it's like the biggest takeaway I wish people had. So many people I think try to optimize the hell out of the game to like every single minute has to be like pixel perfect, and you have to be on top of your stuff, and you know, you see these spreadsheets that are planned out for like 2700 points in 4 hours, and it's like, dude, I don't think that's remotely necessary. I swear to God, I think half the community gets their 500 points. They open up that tier 2 relic, and then they just sit there fishing while they decide for like 25 minutes. Like,
Yep.
and I think that is awesome. Like, that is totally fine. You should definitely do that. I do that all the time when planning out my next tasks, or sometimes you get that really hard relic decision. And you're like, okay, I need a second. I need a second on this to like sleep on it.
Yeah. Well, and you know, it's okay to like take a breath and enjoy the game. You know, because I get that sense too. I think a lot of people, they really want to optimize this stuff. But at the end of the day, like, if you get absolutely everything done in the league that you want to do, then you're probably just done with the league. Like, unless you're someone who's going to try and like do absolutely every single task, which is going to be such a small percentage of people. So if you kind of have your plan for within a week of the league and you do it because you're like playing 16 hours a day and life sucks and you forgot to eat and like you're not showering, whatever, you know, I'm like, I mean, you can, you know, if you enjoy that, by all means. But at the same time, like, leagues is there for 8 weeks, so like, yeah, I mean, do your hour plan, get like the first relic or two open, get your first area open, so you can kind of enjoy a little bit more of the game. But then, like, for me, I always take my foot off the gas at that point because I'm just like, I'm good, you know, like I've got tons of time. I want to enjoy the league for longer. Like, I don't want to be burnt out at the end of a week. So like, give me 3 weeks, you know, 4 weeks, whatever it is, right?
Yeah, it is crazy how many people, like, dude, 8 weeks is so much time. Like, there's so much time in 8 weeks.
2 months.
Yeah,
Two whole months.
and like, and the funny thing is, like, nobody even really, like, very few people I think end up playing for all 8 weeks. So like, just being a little more chill with it, and like, you know, enjoying what you're doing and stuff like that. Also just like it's okay to like take a break and stuff like that. You know, like, you can go play other games too.
Whoa, hold on.
Like, you can, like, no, but like, like, you could just, well, one thing I did, for example, is I started getting a little bit bored of Dragon last year, and I just went and I played an alt instead for like 2 weeks, and I came back eventually and finished off Dragon, right?
All right,
like,
good. You know, you gotta.
So
you gotta
I was
keep
playing
it
other
to
games.
RuneScape,
Was a different leagues game. Yeah, different leagues game. But
no brighter shores in here or anything, right?
Oh no, actually though, okay, I will say, I'll shout myself out. Okay, last leagues, all right. During all that stuff that was going on, I hit Master in League of Legends, which I think was pretty sick.
My God.
I was just grinding it off stream. I don't know how. I started. I just had leagues on the brain. Yeah, and I was just grinding it and stuff.
League of Legends is like such a grind, dude. How? Like, oh my God, dude.
I think my brain just like reversed. You know, I entered like Zen mode from doing league tasks all day, so I could like hit the rift, and my brain was a temple, you know, nobody could tilt me. So
that's pretty wild.
That was pretty cool. No, but yeah, I think in general, like I think one thing that we kind of talked a little bit about earlier is that it's really good to pick some kind of like aspirational content, because I think you're gonna have a lot of fun actually going for that down the line as well, as opposed to if you pick stuff that like you're already really familiar with. Because I think a lot of people will be like, oh, I already know how to do this, so I'm not going to struggle with it, right? Like, maybe you've never done Gauntlet before, right? I don't think I did like any Gauntlet last leagues. I just avoided that. Man, I got absolutely destroyed in the Gauntlet for like 4 hours. It was so embarrassing. And then once I finally started to pick up on it, it was kind of cool. And in the league's format, it's actually really like, it's pretty chill and stuff like that. And I think Echo Bosses kind of have that role this time around, where there is just some aspirational content in every single region to sort of look forward to, and sort of keep at the back of your mind as something that will, like, I think, challenge you a bit more as far as like PVM goes.
Yeah, and I think I like how they've organized the Combat Masteries in regard to that as well, where like you've got 6 points worth of stuff that, I mean, you're basically just gonna do as you play the game. It's like kind of freebies almost. But then you've got like these other goals at the bottom, which is like defeating the different echoes in your regions, and then also defeating the Inferno. So like, you don't even have to worry about doing those things like early on. You know, it's just there as kind of like a nice way to like help push people out of their comfort zone once they've already gotten their experience in the league. You know, maybe they've gotten some gear behind them, things like that. So I really like how they've designed that for this league.
That's actually something I'm sure I think we talked a little bit about this, but I think a lot of people have been asking me about sort of like how to or like a route on getting all the combat masteries done. And so I think we could definitely talk about that next because I'm sure a lot of people are curious about it. Before we get into that though, I did want to ask a bit about echo bosses because I think they're so cool. I'm so stoked about them. I really feel like that's what's probably the most like interesting thing for me this week. So like I guess like what's your favorite?
What's my favorite? I probably won't know until I'm really in it, just because we don't know the mechanics yet. And as much as I'm like, I think Echo Soul sounds like a good idea. I have not beat the Colosseum yet, but I'm like, okay, you know, let me beat the Colosseum and probably like the hardest boss in the game after being Echo Soul. Whether or not I'll be able to do it, I guess, is another question. So that's one that I'm like, as a sort of like PVM challenge type of thing, I'm really looking forward to that. In terms of like the items though, I really love the Nature's Reprisal, the sort of like long range salamander. And even though I know it's not like best in slot or whatever, I really like that they've like given salamanders a place kind of towards the top this year. You know, because
I was really looking at that build for a while. I think I switched off of it sadly, because every day I'm switching my builds right now. But I think that one was really cool, and it does have that like perk of basically opening you to whatever you want. It's almost like how you get like Perilous Moons gear. I feel like you'll get that salamander, and then you can kind of just start doing raids every single style. Like, are you going to be super busted? No, not with everything, but I mean, you're not going to be stuck like chipping down something with like 2 DPS because you don't have a single range tool. So I think it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah. So how about you? What kind of Echo stuff are you looking forward to? Bosses, gear? What are you thinking?
The thing for me is it's kind of like what you said where we don't know the mechanics yet. That is super, super interesting. I also hope that they don't show any of the mechanics because I want that to be sort of blind. Like I don't know. I just want to see the first person get to like these Echo bosses, right? And I'm not even talking about Echo Soul. I mean like, I want to see what the heck Echo Calphite Queen looks like or Echo KBD because those are the bosses I think are the most interesting actually is like the completely clean slates because they could add almost any mechanic to those fights. Whereas there's more restrictions with something like Soul or with the Hunlift because those already have like big themes to them. You can't just attach random mechanics or I mean, I guess you could, but it wouldn't work very well as a fight. And I'm really excited to see what they do with those bosses, especially. Because I think they're also early game accessible. So you're going to see people walking in there with like a rune scimitar, just trying to farm out these bosses.
Oh, you think it's going to be that early? Cool. Oh, I don't know about that.
I think there's going to be a lot of people trying to get early, especially depending on the drop rates of those
I guess
like
true.
items. You know, because like again, it's hard to say if it's like a 1 in 50 drop rate. Yeah, you're probably not farming KBD that much, but like. Listen, I saw people doing Inferno day 2. There's going to be somebody doing Coliseum day 2. I'm almost sure of it. And that means I'll be able to do Echo Soul day 2, right? Like that's
fair.
Like,
that's fair.
I think it's actually kind of cool that those like super like high-end PVM players are getting a chance to sort of, you know, test out a completely new boss blind. I think that's going to be a lot of fun for them.
Yeah, I'll be really curious. I'm also so the DKs I think are also going to be an interesting one since kind of like for the same reason, you know, there is the theme in the way where like they're each one part of the combat triangle, but there's really not a lot of other mechanics that go on with them. So I'm also really curious in that same way. Like they could kind of add just about anything, and there's 3 of them. So you know, who knows what they're gonna throw in there.
Yeah, and what's kind of cool about that in particular is the Dagannoth Kings are surprisingly like it's gonna sound weird, but they're surprisingly complicated in that you're expected to gear swap and you have to prayer swap too, right? Now, obviously, you'll probably just be attacking one and stuff like that, but that has evolved so much from the Dagannoth Kings. I think Akka is a pretty good example in Tombs of a Masket, where you're expected to do both of those. And I'm just curious how that fight goes. You know, I don't know what it's going to be like. It is master difficulty, which makes me think there's something different. There's something unique about it.
Oh my god, what if they end up doing something like, what is it in Chamber of Xeric, where they have the 3 that go around the room, and you have to like get them down to certain HP thresholds? I wonder if they're going to involve that mechanic for the Dagannoth King, so you're forced to like fight each of them a little bit, and you can't just like blow one of them up.
That's what I'm hoping for, so that you really have to like, or yeah, just kind of something like Vanguards. I think that would be pretty cool. I know a lot of people hate Vanguards, and I can kind of get that, but I think that there's some cool potential there if it's like a fight designed around that instead of just like a specific room in a
Yeah.
larger raid, you know what I mean? So yeah, that would be pretty cool. I know for me, I'm also really interested. I think in general, all the bosses that had annoying restrictions lifted. So
Mm.
I think Hunlift is going to be a lot of fun. I think that's a big reason why I'm really excited about Tyranwin is I think the Hunlift fight is really cool, and not having to do prep is going to make that fight way more fun, in my opinion. And I think I'm kind of excited because like we all talked about earlier, leagues is such a good opportunity to get PVM practice, and I feel like just even if I'm doing it on leagues, just doing like 100 200 reps of Unlift is going to get me at least good enough at the fight and understanding it. Like I'm not going to be able to dodge there's no relic that lets you dodge tornadoes, I guess, except cheat death. But as long as you're like, I think as long as you're trying to like intentionally, as long as you're not like intentionally breaking the game with relics, you're probably still getting like some decent practice at the fight.
Yeah. Well, I do wonder for that one. These bosses where you potentially want to like farm them more frequently for it. Well, and I think Tyranwin with the Corrupted Gauntlet's probably the best example of it, just because you're like, you want to get full crystal. You want to get your Bofa. So I do kind of wonder if it'll be more worth it to just like farm the Echo Hunlith, or if it's going to be like a really tough fight and maybe still take longer. I am really curious to see what'll end up shaking out for that one. A little bit like Hespori
cool
too.
To watch. I hope it ends up being like that because they do have like the regular drop tables. So
yeah,
I hope that it ends up being that like the echo bosses are more fun to farm, and you're going to be going for those items anyways. So I think that even after I get it though, I think I'd rather just fight the echo boss just for the enjoyment of it, rather than like, okay, I have 300 Calfight Queens to kill today, and I just sit there and click the boss and then click it again when it transitions. Like
that's not exciting. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's like listen, I did it once, all right. I'm not gonna do it again. Although, listen, I might go back to Asgarnia for a third time and do God Wars, which is like, oh, that's so crazy to think about. I'm gonna do God Wars a third time potentially.
I can't. I can't. I'm like, I know if I go dry on an item, I don't want to go farm next. So I'm just like, it's just not happening. Even if it was like the best thing for my build, nah, I can't.
Yep. I guess then let's talk about Combat Masteries, yeah?
Sure.
Because that is, we talked about Echo Bosses. I think Combat Masteries are also pretty huge. I don't know which one I like more, to be honest. They're both so cool, but I don't know I haven't decided which one I think is the better addition to the game.
Well, I'll say I'll give my preference because I'm really looking forward to melee builds in particular. So I think there's going to be a lot of fun with the melee builds, even if I think range is probably the most powerful out of the three, just in general for like consistent DPS type of thing.
Yep.
But yeah, I think melee sounds really fun with these echo hits, and like you get some really crazy stacks with like a scythe, but you don't even have to get a scythe. I mean, you could do any of the double hitting weapons that have recently been added, so like Blood Moon or Thorax hammers or anything like that. And I think that'll be a lot of fun. Mage is one where I really wanted to do a mage build. I don't know. I feel like you can, but the direction that they've gone with like some of the echo items and things, and like what they've done here, where mage is kind of like a glass cannon for one hit. Granted, yes, you get more damage out of mage even if you're like consistently attacking, but I don't know. It doesn't feel quite on the same level as like the other two when I look at them.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like, I don't think mage is bad. I really do think the biggest problem is just a lot of people went mage last year, so it's just not very interesting again. And it just hasn't changed since last year. You're basically still looking for the shadow, which just carries your damage. And then you're going to the jewelry region, which is now Fremenic, because you need that to make the shadow good. And I think that one-dimensional build is just not as interesting anymore when ranged and melee have so much cool like weapon progression and so many different options. That I just don't think you want to go for like that playstyle anymore. So yeah, it kind of sucks. I still want to try out mage sometimes. I think it must be better than people give it credit for, because like, a lot of people, like, I keep seeing this thing where they're like how can the developers possibly do this? Do they even play the game? I'm like, I'm pretty sure they play it a lot more than you do. Okay, like I think they've probably played leagues, they probably played Magic. I'm not saying it's doesn't look like the weakest. It probably will be the weakest, but like I also don't really know if I care that much because I did it last time. And I think the biggest thing though is just needs something to bridge the gap between like ancients and the shadow. Like that progression is so like, it's just so huge, and
Yeah.
it needs more steps.
Yeah. I mean, well, okay. So I'll say this: as much as I like when I look at these like 3 tier 6s for the masteries, I think mage is probably the weakest. It's also like it's not going to be weak. Like even when I say that, like I think it'll still hit really hard. It's still going to be extremely accurate. So like you could still get some fun builds. And I do think I wish elemental mastery was easier to plan around and like get more content in the areas that you pick. That's one of the other kind of like I guess drawbacks for me when I look at mage, because I think that there's a really cool build in doing something like you basically have to go jewelry region. So you do like Kandarin, Fremnik, and then Mauritania, and you pick up like a nightmare staff. I wish you could like fit in some other regions and get some more like elemental weaknesses. So I think that would also be really fun, and that would also kind of help bridge that gap a little bit, since you don't have to get like a shadow in particular. Like you have other mage weapons available to you that you can use. You've got all the different elemental spells as you go up in the levels, so like you're starting to branch out a little bit. So I think it kind of helps solve for that, but it just doesn't feel like quite as good because of the way like being region locked, and like yes, you will get some elemental weaknesses, but then you're like, if you pick certain areas, so maybe if you drop Fremnik, you've now lost so much damage percentage there. Like it feels a little bad to do, and then if you pick up like Asgarnia because it has more bosses with elemental weakness, it's like okay, it just kind of sucks.
Yeah, I think here's the thing about elemental weaknesses, and kind of like I'm a big elemental weakness hater. I think it's kind of dumb.
Oh really?
Yeah, I thought they were always kind of silly, because the problem with elemental weaknesses is that now the standard spellbook is based around it, or it's like balanced around it, right? Like
Yeah.
I feel like if they had just given the standard spellbook a 50% buff instead, like I feel like that would have been kind of cool too. I don't know. They could have still had elemental weaknesses, but now it feels like if you have an elemental weakness, you're doing like pretty good damage. If you don't, then it's functionally useless. And the thing that really makes me kind of a little sad about the Devil's Element in particular, because I didn't hate it at first. I thought that it was kind of cool to have a weapon that is situationally very, very good. But then I started like actually checking some numbers, and it feels like it just loses to the Shadow anyways, which is like, if you're going to be a situational weapon, then I feel like you have to be the best when it counts, right? So I think the Devil's Element should be the highest damage at every single boss that has an elemental weakness, and it shouldn't even be close. Like you should be absolutely blasting all the other styles away, and that doesn't seem to be the case. So that's why I'm a little disappointed with mage because of that, and yeah, that's kind of sad.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that I think they could have gone that route of just boosting normal spells. I think the Nightmare Staff has that already, right? Where it's like the passive effect on it is standard spells are better.
Yeah, they just do more damage.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree, because then also, well, they didn't give Sweet Baby Kandarin didn't get the what is it? The Wrath Ruins. I
don't think they get
so
that.
like so you have to go Fremnik if you want the top level standard spell. There's just like that one hurts me. I'm like, why can't we just give the standard spell book a little bit of something, and like since Kandarin has a lot of the mage stuff anyway, I think if it had access to Wrath Ruins, you'd be able to like play around with your build a little bit more. Yes, skipping out on Fremnik, you still feel a little bad for like the Echo Jewelry, but at least, in Kandarin, it still has the best in slot magic percent stuff anyway, like for the main game. So you wouldn't necessarily have to lose out on that much damage. And then you can, play around with more regions and then still feel good about it. And especially if it's leaned into like the standard spellbook, then you're not worried necessarily about elemental weaknesses. You just pick bosses that you think are fun. So you do like Kandarin, Mauritania, and then like something else to kind of fill out that roster.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Kandarin defender. I love it. I'll quickly give my take on Kandarin because I do think it's still like a good early game region. It still has like its benefits and stuff like that. I was getting like laughed at in the comments for this, but I said that I think Kandarin is going to be kind of sweet, because if you go there at tier 3 and you do Waterfall Quest and Fight Arena, that puts you at, I believe, was it 64 attack or something like that? 64 attack, 57 strength. That's pretty good. Like that is really solid. You take a Dragon Long or take a Dragon Simi at that point, and like you're basically good to go to start just training. A lot of people laughed at me. They're like, that's a stupid reason to take Kandarin. And I'm like, okay, well, half of you guys quit in a week and a half anyways. So like, who cares? Like, I don't know. Like, who cares if Kandarin's not that good in the end game? Go do the stuff that you actually like to do and have fun there. But yeah, I think like, I'm not like, again, I think I think the saddest thing for me is that Kandarin just doesn't have any end game. Really doesn't have any
Yeah.
end game chase, and the items don't really fix it either. But you know, if you're looking for like a chill region and you just want something with like easy tasks and like relatively free points, like Kandarin's still really good for that. And I don't think I think I'm starting to get a little annoyed that the like Kandarin hate like it's fun. Like don't get me wrong, it's fun, but I feel like sometimes it's starting to become like, oh, if you pick Kandarin, you're like an idiot. You know what I mean? Or like yeah, and I
Are
feel
you
like I
gonna
don't
pick
like.
Kandarin?
No, but like I don't think I'm gonna pick it either. But I think on a second account, I'm probably gonna pick it. Yeah, if I make a second account that's melee, I think I might just pick it just to blast my melee up and just start training right
Yeah.
away.
I mean,
Um,
I will say, as much as people meme on Kandarin, and like I've done it too in several of the videos, you know, I'm like, I think Kandarin has enough like interesting things going on with it that it can fit depending on what you do. And I think it was in like your build video, you talked about like this AFK build, which
mhm.
involves Kandarin. And I like Kandarin because of specifically when I think about like barbarian fishing and how some of these other relics can kind of like help you train other skills while you are also barbarian fishing. And so like that sort of combo where you can train like, I don't know, half a dozen skills at once, if not more. I think that's really valuable actually for people, especially if you're going to be AFK a lot. And like you get fishing, cooking, because you probably want the harpoon. You've got agility, strength. That's 4 just right from there. And then if you can do something like maybe you have the forager relic, so you're getting herbs, so your herb lore is basically taken care of while you're doing that. And if they end up adding something like equilibrium as well, you can start training some other things. So like I think there are some good use cases for that. I also think Kandarin's really good for clues if you take the thieving relic, because Kandarin has basically all of the high level NPCs that you can pickpocket and get clues from. And so like it's a great clue region if that's something that you wanted to like focus in on. And there are a lot of like high level general tasks around clues. And I mean, as fun as it is to go and kill heckhounds a million times for hard clues, like, do you really want to go do that when you could like go and AFK pickpocketing heroes or whatever it is for the hard clue drop? You know, so I think it has some benefits to it, and I think it ends up functioning really well still as like a supporting region. And I know like something I've talked about a lot with folks, and this kind of goes back to an earlier point for us too, where you don't want to pick a lot of PVM heavy regions. So like I'll normally say you pick your raid region, you pick like whatever for your gear, and then you pick a support region like the Wilderness or Kandarin or maybe even Taranwin, where there's not like a ton of stuff that you have to do, or even the stuff that you do have to do, it's like pretty quick. Just because like you probably won't have time to do absolutely everything. So having one of those lighter regions where it can help fill some of those other slots for you, yeah, I think it does have value. Even if I put it in like D tier, like whatever, you know, like
Yeah,
I would still take it. Just it depends on the use case for me.
yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like, I also have never, like, I've never said that I think it's one of the better. I think it's pretty much the worst region. Like, I don't think anybody would
You heard
argue
it
with
here.
that, honestly.
You heard it here, folks.
But like, it has its values and stuff like that. Also, like, even like the Fremnik jewelry, like, yeah, it's awesome. I think people underestimate that it's gonna take you some time to get that. Like, it's not something you're gonna be getting off the rip. You know, not saying that like Kandarin jewelry's easy to get either, but it's a lot easier. That's all I'll say. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Maybe they end up being complete jokes and every single boss falls over, and I'm totally wrong, and I'll eat my words on that. But I think
not.
in general,
I want some challenge out of the Echo bosses.
well, here's what I feel about them, right? And I think this is something a lot of people have actually expressed, right? I'm sure when Echo Soul got released, you saw people saying like, I'm gonna switch off of Varlamore, right? Because I'm never gonna do Echo Soul. I feel that when you have everything, it will be pretty easy. When you have all of your relics, your combat relics, and you'll have like, you know, tier 9, tier 10, it should be pretty easy. The thing is though, is that you might come in there with half of that. You might have half of your gear. You might not even have your mega rare weapon yet. That's where I think I want it to be fairly challenging. And so there's a little bit more progression there where you can take it on. It's too hard for you. Maybe go farm to get your final combat relic and stuff like that. Cheat death will help. Maybe you don't even have Banker's Note unlocked at the time, right? And go get that, and then that will kind of allow you to brute force almost any, almost any fight in the game. So, yeah, I think that even if something feels hard at the start, you'll get there. Like you'll get there. The power will come.
Yeah.
Even Echo Soul. I think even like I know you mentioned that you haven't done the Coliseum before, right? I think a lot of people will find the Coliseum super enjoyable to do on leagues. I did it on Deadman mode with kind of the buffed powers, and I thought it was really, really fun. Honestly, the biggest issue in there is like sometimes you just get one shot by the manticores, And if you have enough like tankiness where they are not just one-shotting you off one mistake, it's a lot easier, I would say, to do the Colosseum than to do the Inferno, which is like, dude, Inferno takes an hour, man. That's so long. Oh my god.
Yeah.
But
Well,
Colosseum's a lot more like it's you're like in the steering wheel the whole time. It's a lot of fun.
yeah. Well, and I guess what I will say is one of the passes for the Combat Masteries is damage taken reduced by 15%. So I don't know what the max hit of those mana cores are, but like if it's, 99 or 110 or whatever, that 15% damage reduction might actually make it so you don't get one shot even if you don't have the the second life combat relic, you know?
Yeah, and like healing is increased as well. So like
Yeah.
I'm not joking. I think most most people first time Coliseum, you'll probably get by just literally running from pillar to pillar and just like chugging Ceradomin brews and eating like sharks is like you'll just spam your way through that until something works out and makes it simple. Like you can cheese your way through it. It is possible. So yeah, don't be too discouraged.
Yeah. And if not, Echo Soul is only 1 point on the combat mastery tree.
True, true. What do you think about I mean, I do want to talk about the early combat mastery, but what do you think about those harder ones being tied behind like, fighting like the big echo bosses or like defeating Zuck in particular? I guess I'll try to bring. Yeah, what do you think about that?
I think it's going to discourage a lot of people initially, but as someone who I hadn't beaten the Inferno before and I tried it last league, like I think a lot of this stuff, and this goes back to something that you said too, like you're really more powerful than you're expecting when you're in leagues. So like I think people will be able to do it. It's just getting over that mental hurdle of like, oh my god, I have to go and kill Zuck and I've never done that before and I'm not a PVMer, so like there's no way. And I'm like, I mean, you can have a lot of fun with a build getting the 6 other points, and like you don't necessarily have to go and beat the echo bosses or Zuck, but I do think that most people are going to be able to do that. I'm sure there's going to be like the one guy out there who's like a nervous wreck and can't like calm his nerves enough to do it. Like because there's enough people, so like sorry to that guy. But I think like 99.9% of players out there, they'll be able to do it and like they'll surprise themselves. I mean, you take something like Banker's Note, like you mentioned that before, and you in essence have infinite supplies. So like the only thing that's going to really screw you up is a one-shot mechanic of some kind. And there's not that many of them. Like, and the Inferno is maybe like the worst case of it, unless the Echo bosses have a lot of stuff in there. Because like the Inferno, you can get one shot by Jad, or by the 3 Jads, or by Zuck. You probably won't get one shot by the NPCs before then. I mean, maybe, but like...
No, waves are really free,
yeah,
I think. Especially because like, honestly, you can like hide behind it, click on a thing, run back behind it, like eat up, like waves are pretty free, I would say. And Zuck and triple Jads, I think triple Jads especially are like mechanically complicated, and that's tough. So I will agree with that. But there is the triple Jad challenge, which I think that's such a good way to practice it. If you can figure it out how to do it in leagues, you will do it in the main game. Probably. Like it's not that much more. Well, I guess it's a little bit more different because usually your damage is so high you don't even have to deal with the healers. That's what I did with my Shadow. I just blasted through I didn't even worry about the healers. So I was like, okay, we're just out DPSing.
Yeah, that's a fair point too. So I think outside of then the Zuck fight, I mean, like you said, even the challenge mode thing for the triple Jads. So like being able to challenge those whenever you want, you don't even have to go through the waves. So if you're worried about like getting to that point, yeah, you just go and you try that out because you just jump to it immediately. So you don't even have to worry about the 20, 30, 40 minutes of getting through all of these waves to then just get one hit. The only thing you can't really do that with is Zuck, but I don't think Zuck is actually that difficult. It's just like once you learn to walk with the shield, that's kind of like the main mechanic, so you're avoiding those one hits and then understanding where you can stand. But there's a lot of guides out there for doing that, and like you can get like the tile plugin markers for the Inferno as well, so you know kind of like where you can stop and attack for certain things. So like, I mean, for me, it took 2 tries. So like the first try, I got to Zuck. I didn't quite know exactly where I was going to stand, and so like I had to learn a little bit about, like I ended up getting one shot, like is what it is. So, rip like an hour, but then I could go back in and I just watched a guide. I figured out where the tiles were. I made sure like the wave before, I just marked those for myself, so I kind of knew where I could go and stand, and then it wasn't that bad because your damage is so high already. So like you don't even have to deal with a lot of the mechanics that are in there, so long as you just avoid that one shot. And especially if you end up going in with like the tier 8 relic, the one that picks you up, like it's a 3-minute cooldown, and while that might sound like a long time, you could draw out a fight for quite a while and still be totally fine. So like,
Yeah, I mean,
you
there's
probably use
people
it
who save
twice.
like Ceradome and Godsword spec, right? And they do that, and
Yeah,
like what the one of the Nightmare Staff specs too. I forgot which one. But they'll use that one too to like milk prayer and health. And like, man, if you really want to, just wait every single wave for your 3-minute cooldown. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, is it lame? Kind of, but like, listen, all right,
I mean,
gets the job done.
yeah, you do what you
Only
gotta
need to kill him
do.
once. One thing I think is really genius, and I am very impressed that they did this, is the fact that you only need 6 points to kind of finish out your tree, right? If it was
Yeah.
10 points, I would probably say that Zuck is probably not fair, right? Because now it feels kind of lame where like you can't get that last one unless you killed Zuck. I don't think people realize how useless the 10th point is, right? For I would say like 85% of players, they're probably going to go 6 points in one, then they're going to go 3 points in a second style, which is giving you that attack speed down, right? And then the fourth one is giving you the most trivial amount of healing ever. Like, it's for your off style. It's so insignificant that that 10th point just does not matter, except for people who want to complete it. And for those people, you're probably going to want to kill Inferno anyway for points and stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't really think, like, I think it's really good. First 6, we'll probably get into this real soon, but I think those first 6 tasks are very straightforward, very simple to do. I was really shocked, I think, at how easy the first 6 are. And then the 3 Echo Bosses and Zuck are, which I consider to be like pinnacle content in this leagues. Those are left for your extras, basically, your extra off-style points. Something to keep chasing later on to make yourself a little bit more powerful than I think you would be in previous leagues in an off-style.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, why don't we talk about the first 6 then, since we're already here for it?
Let's do it. Because I know a lot of people have I haven't even really thought about this too much either. So, well, I mean, I have a little bit, but I'm sure you probably got some ideas too. So I'm curious.
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of them are fairly free. Maybe not so much in like the first hour, but I think within like the first couple of hours, people have spread out to their different regions to the point where you can probably go and find a giant somewhere. I mean, like one of the things that I was thinking about, so like defeating a giant at the start, I think a lot of people are going to think about like the Edgefill giants or like in the Varrock sewers or whatever. And I think those are going to be slammed. Like, do you really want to wait in line to go and like airstrike a giant down? Probably not. I don't think it's going to be like that interesting for folks. If you really, really wanted to get to that one early, there is the Brimhaven dungeon, which I don't think a lot of people will be in. And even if there are, there's like quite a high concentration of different types of monsters in there. There's a couple different giants. So you got like fire giants and moss giants. So I know in Deadman mode, I'd like to go there because there's basically nobody there. And now that I'm saying it, I'm sure that there will be people there. But, you know, it's like most of the time there's not that many people running around. So if you really wanted to get to it early, I think you could do that. And that also has a lot of like high level monsters that you could potentially use for that defeat 10 monsters with a combat level. But also, you know, if you follow like anybody's hour plans, I know you've got one. I've got one that I'm going to be putting out here soon as well. Like, you'll be in your first region, if not maybe even your second region within like an hour or two. And like, you can just go and do this stuff there because there won't be nearly as many people as, you know, folks start to like spread out. So I really think, especially those first 2, very free. It's just, don't go in with the expectation that like you're going to get it in the first hour, because if you do, you're probably going to be waiting in line for like a giant, especially. I know I've seen some recommendations for like going and killing Tazar creatures, but it's kind of the same deal. I think a lot of people will end up going to the Tazar area. They're all plus 100 combat, and yeah, they are safe spottable, but like it's going to be really slow at low combat. I don't think it's like that worth it to sit there and do it early on. You just wait a couple hours if you really wanted to go there.
I'm curious because I actually don't know about this. I'm like, I feel like I know this, but my brain's like slipping. If you're like safe spotting a monster, right? Can't other people attack it because you're like technically not in combat?
No,
Or am I tripping? So. Okay, so it would be say like somebody else attacking this, right?
Other monsters could hit you. So like,
oh, okay, gotcha.
So
right.
So like going to the Brimhaven example, you have to be a little bit careful about where you safe spot some of the stuff there, because especially at a low level, everything's going to be aggressive to you. So you can get PJ'd off of the monster that you're killing, and that's like pretty annoying. Right. But no, like someone can't come by unless it's multi-combat.
Oh, okay,
and they hit it. So you should be good on that.
Gotcha. Sorry, my brain's just been like fried lately. So some of these things,
all the
like,
leagues.
I swear, no, it really is. I've just been covering so much, so I just forget certain things. But I also think that let's just disregard all of this about, you know, going to your other zones, right? I
Sure.
remember back in leagues too, okay? A lot of people lined up to fight that lesser demon in the
Oh my
wizard tower,
God.
okay? And was it an awful idea? Yes, it was. But there are a lot more giants in the starting area than there are lesser demons in the wizard's tower, okay? Like, as long as you're not like, I think the only ones that I really think are going to be a problem is like the hill giant dungeon in like
Yeah.
Varrock sewers that everybody went to for like 5 years of your childhood went there to train in combat. You know what I mean? Like that I understand that will probably be pretty crowded, but there's 3 times respawn rate. Most people are not going to be sitting there farming them that much. Maybe they're going for big bones, maybe.
Yeah,
But
that's fair.
I think
Well,
most people are going to kill their one and just leave. So I actually don't think that's going to be as big of an issue. I think honestly, I would say worst, like maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Maybe I'm totally tripping here, but I don't see it being worse than like a 5 minute wait basically to get one.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, screw waiting in the line for the lesser demon in the wizard's tower. You get the line going like out the door, down the stairs at that point. It's like, oh
Yeah.
my god,
Or
guys.
have you ever seen the Warriors Guild for like Dead Man mode and stuff like that? Oh my god, that's the worst thing ever. You have like 8 people per Cyclops spawn.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
so awful.
No, but you know what? Yeah, that's fair. And actually, as you mentioned that, there are a lot of other areas where you can go. Like, there's the one off the coast of Karamja near like the gold mine that has moss giants there. There's like,
That's so smart. Oh my god, yeah. There's like a whole. Can't you safe spot them from?
yeah, I would think
cross?
so. I think there's a few spots that you could stand. There's Soul Wars Isle. There's a couple of moss giants like just south of the lobby area. So I know that there's some there. I don't know.
Parent has like 500 just sitting in
Yeah.
a little area, right? Desert has them. I think almost every region has. I think I think pretty much every region should have some giants. Maybe not like Mauritania or something like that, but also giant is a pretty broad category. So yeah, I'm sure you could find something. And they die really fast to elemental weaknesses if you're doing like an ice giant or something like that. I think I remember watching Settled. He did the one hit point. Like he has his 1 hit point account. I think he was finding a way to like
yeah.
safe spot ice giants and stuff like that, which is pretty cool to watch. So
Gets fire spells.
yeah, and like you'll blast it because even at like level, probably have like level 10 magic, and you'll still be able to blast them because you have double accuracy, double strength too. Oh,
Yeah.
I guess that's something because I want to talk a little bit about like and kind of draw attention to things that have changed from last year, right? And I think elemental weaknesses are actually pretty cool to talk about because there are a lot of those early game monsters now that are weak to elemental spells.
Yeah.
A big one that I've been thinking about that is really popular already is blue dragons, or pretty much every dragon. But they're weak now to elemental spells. So I think Isle of Souls is going to be pretty crowded, but you can safe spot blue dragons over there. That's how I'm tentatively thinking about getting my prayer. Although
I think
now that I said that,
there's only like 2, aren't there? I don't think there's a
there's
lot
like
of spawns down
there's
there.
like 3 or 4, so it's not that much. But I only need like. Listen, I only need like 8 dragon boats. Okay, I'll get 8 dragon boats and I'm out of there. But that might be one of my options on getting like my early prayer, as well as they are level 100 plus combat creeps too. So second combat task there.
Oh man, good luck.
Yep.
I don't know about that. I feel like those are probably going to be really crowded just because they're like starter area dragons for that same reason, people wanting to. I was trying to figure out, so I know one of the combat mastery points is Scurious. So Scurious is also something that's new, and I think it's going to be really good for combat training. I think it works out really well because Rip Soul Wars and Pest Control, no combat experience from there. So like you almost have to go to Scurious if you're not going to do quests and things, because I think Scurious is going to be like best in slot combat training for most things. But yeah, I was thinking about
if people have not done Scurious, you don't like it is so much better than doing. In my opinion, it's going to be so much more fun than doing Soul Wars. It's a super early game boss. You can go in there with like overhead prayers and like a rune scimitar, or you don't even need a rune scimitar. Get yourself like a rune sword from the Champions Guild. You'll be fine. Or get a rune mace because that upgrades to like the bone mace or whatever. I think Scurious is going to be so much fun, and I really hope a lot of people who haven't tried it yet give it a shot. I think they're going to absolutely love like grinding combat, even in your off styles on that boss. He's really, really sick, super easy. Not very like, I would say the mechanics are actually quite engaging. It's just that the failure is not very punishing. So even if you do make mistakes, you're not really ever going to die. You'll just kind of keep on going, basically.
Yeah, and that's fair. But I was thinking about this because I'm like, how do you get to overhead prayers? So Golden God as a relic could solve prayer for you, but it doesn't come until tier 4. So it's like a little bit out of the way. I don't think you necessarily need to wait for that. And one thing that we're getting this year is the Defender of Rock quest completed. So there's a XP lamp that's going to be available from the museum that gives 5,000 XP in any skill above level 30.
Is that I've been hearing back and forth if that's confirmed or not about the experience lamp.
Well,
I think it did work last year, so
it's supposed to be available from completing the Defender of Rock quest. I guess
right.
I don't. In Deadman mode, when we got a couple of the other XP lamps for completing like Merlin's Crystal and whatever, those worked with the XP multiplier. So like I'm expecting that the XP multiplier on the lamp would work. Whether or not we get the lamp is the question, but
that's what I'm wondering, if we get the lamp or not.
But
I think it was in Deadman mode, but I think I'll like because the thing is, for me, I would just hate that, because I think it like cheapens the early like how do you solve prayer question, which I think is kind of cool this year. That's what I'm still kind of planning right now. I mean, I talked about those blue dragons, but I just don't think that's going to be particularly good, because I think it is going to be super crowded. So I'm considering a couple other things right now to figure out a plan.
So I guess if we get the lamp, what I'm thinking is that's an easy one to put in prayer. You just have to get 30 prayer, which is, I did the math for this, 13k just about prayer XP. So you can almost, because of how much XP you're going to be getting anyway, you can almost just like do whatever for that. Like killing random things as you're doing your first couple hours, burying the bones, that'll probably give you a decent amount. Find something that drops big bones or baby dragon bones or dragon bones that can get you there. A couple of those things. So like you already have to kill giants. If you can find like a pack of moss giants, pack of hill giants, whatever, like that can be a place for big bones for you. Those will be pretty quick. You can go into the Brimhaven dungeon and there are some baby dragons upstairs. That can be a way for you. They are safe spottable for like sort of. It's a little bit annoying, but you can kill them and then you get baby dragon bones. So like that can be kind of like some early prayer experience depending on how many people are there. But I think there's like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 spawns of them there. So like there are quite a few spots. We do have ashes that we can scatter as well. So like if you can find kind of like a mid-level demon somewhere. I know Brimhaven Dungeon, I'm saying it a lot, but like it has a big variety of creatures. So you've got giants, you've got some like lesser demon stuff in there, greater demons. If you can safe spot them, like you can use those ashes as well and get some pretty good prayer XP. So I think there's a lot of options for you early. I don't know that I would want to do that all the way up to 43 prayer to get protection prayers. So like my thought is I go into one of these places, I get myself up to 30 prayer, and then I'm able to go and use that lamp from the museum. If we don't get that, then I mean, you're just kind of stuck doing that same thing for a little bit longer. But then once you get to 43, you're able to comfortably take on Scurious, and that kind of solves your combat issues at that point. Plus gives you the combat mastery as well.
Yeah, I want to quickly look at something real fast, because I'm trying to think, like, you're going to have 16 times experience, right? So let's say I looked at like, okay, give me a sec here. Dragon Bone. Some quick math here. 72 times 16. It's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. Even with that, like, yeah, 43 prayer will take a little bit of time. Yeah, that's probably not the plan.
Yeah,
I'm looking at like 40 dragons. That's probably not the plan. But maybe to 30, and then you can lamp it somehow. Maybe you get it to 30, and then you do like the diaries. You do Lumbridge and Varrock diary. I think that might be my plan then.
Oh, yeah, you could do that as well. Actually,
even if the lamp exists, because as soon as you get overheads, you go to Scurious. And actually, like, that's kind of my plan right now, is get to 30 prayer, get my diaries done to get the experience there. Karumja easy probably works too. And then I'm actually just going to skip doing the level 100 plus monsters, I think, and just do Scurious as my level 100 plus monster and just kill him 10 times, I guess, and work my way through. Because you don't need to do them in any order. And I think that's really cool that you can actually kill Scurious before you go in there. You'll get that second one. That's already giving you some more damage. And then from there, I mean, you're just going to start skyrocketing with those kills.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the diaries, but those are basically free. I mean, especially like, so the Lumbridge one, you'll probably already have all the requirements by the time you've played for an hour. And a lot of the quests are like auto completed and stuff too. So like that's a 2500 XP lamp and a skill above 30. So
wait, it has to be above 30 for easy? That's
what it says. Yeah.
What about Karumja? Do you know if Karumja can do it? I'm thinking, what if you could send like Karumja easy diary, get like 16,000, right? Because it's 1,000 lamp time. So cool. Wait,
that's true. Okay,
so we got an idea here. Is this the plan? Did we just figure it out?
Although Karumja's a little bit more difficult. I mean, 40 mining as a requirement isn't like that crazy in League.
Oh, okay. That's like, all right. Well, pickaxers up big, but Damn, I didn't know it had that one. That sucks. That's like
I
the only thing
yeah,
that's kind of tough.
yeah, that will take a little while, just because you'd have to find something that you can mine relatively quickly, and if you don't take the pickaxe one, I think that's going to be probably a little bit more challenging for you.
Yeah, never mind. Damn, I'll have to think of back to drawing board then.
But you're right, though. This lamp doesn't have any sort of skill requirement on it, so 1,000 XP in any skill. So, like, there might be something to do with that, especially if you're going to go, like, mining heavy early on. Then maybe that's an option for you, too, to kind of help boost that level up.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like if you have a region, for example, that has like iron rocks. I think I did that when I got to Kandarin last year. I just sat at iron rocks and I was like, all right, these are mine until people get here. I just power mined them to like 30 or 35 or something like that. And I was like, all right, sweet, we're out of here. Like,
Yeah.
don't need to worry about that anymore.
Oh, okay, but yeah, I guess if nothing else, I think you maybe solved it for me. Because
yeah, I mean, hey, worst case scenario,
I don't have a problem. Like I can go find something and camp out until 30 prayer. I don't think that's going to be that big of a deal.
And then just do the diaries.
Yeah, and then diary lamp,
and then you're pretty much solved. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I think that is kind of like looking to be my plan right now, is just find something to do. Or unless you have a region, I think that super benefits it. Like, man, how awful of an idea is it to like try to do barrows like fresh off the rip, because you get the 20,000 lamp there. I like, man,
I don't think it's that bad of an idea. I think it'll be tough, because if you're going in without prayers, you have to be really careful, because especially since you're probably going to be really low level, like a lot of the brothers are going to do some pretty big damage to you. But considering the air weakness, I mean, if you were like, so you spawn into Lumbridge, drop your mine and air ruins, claim your free ruins from there while you're running around just like casting spells, I think you can get up to like, what is it? Bolt spells are chaos ruins, and then what's after that? Is it blast spells?
Yeah, I think blast is death.
Yeah, so like I think if you can get to air blast pretty quickly, then yeah, just like send barrows. And yes, it's gonna really suck taking down like Arams and Carols, but like whatever, you know, you don't have to do like anything crazy to get through it. Just like bring your inventory of food and like that's fine. You know, you bring an inventory of Paramblons, you know.
Right. Yeah, damn, that's kind of cool. I kind of want to see that. Yeah, that sounds really fun. It would be tough.
It'll be difficult, but I think you can do it. Just understand that you might die like a few times trying to get through it, but once you do, it's gonna like shoot you up to I don't even know, because it gives a lot of XP, right? You said 20,000.
It's 20,000 base, which would be like my doing the math, 320k. Like that's I mean, that puts you in the 60s, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's 70 prayer like almost.
Yeah, you're chilling on prayer at least. Like also, wait, I think if you die to the Barrows brothers, right, you don't like reset your progress, right? You just go back.
No, you don't.
And, like,
yeah.
Because I was thinking like, okay, if you mess up, maybe like, okay, whatever, you just kind of come back, actually, right? You should have your teleports by then.
Yeah, that's true. So. Yeah, if you have the well, okay, hold on. If you have the clue teleport specifically, you can just teleport into the final room. So Settled learned this too. You don't have to actually finish the brother to loot the chest. So you could even kind of like cheese around it a little bit, where if you got the clue compass, you teleport into the final Barrows room after picking up the quest from the old man on the surface, and then you open the chest, you teleport out, and then you teleport back in, and then you just loot the chest. So you don't even have to finish.
I think the
Barrows,
lamp,
right?
you have to kill all 6 specifically.
Ah, do you?
I think it's a restriction. I think the lamp makes you kill all 6. I'm pretty sure.
Maybe
I could be wrong on that. Maybe somebody can fact check. Yeah, but so that would be like way too good if you could just like literally pick it up, TP, you're dead. Like, then I'm going Mauritania first.
All right,
easy.
hold on. What is it? Old man at Barrows. I need to find this.
Called like his faithful servants, I believe, the quest. If you want to do the live fact check, let's see. Maybe I just convinced people not to go Mauritania.
Let's see. Oh, that doesn't look good. It says enemies to defeat. Let's see. Does it actually specify? Yeah. Okay, you do have to defeat all 6 brothers. Dang it. So you can't totally cheese it. That could still, I don't know. Interesting. Yeah, I guess that doesn't really help a whole lot, but at least you'll have the teleports to get back down there probably, so that at least speeds it up a little.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's a close enough teleport that's like, at least you're not running through like the entire swamp. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna get like relatively close.
That would have been so good.
I don't know. I think
cheese the chest and just get like 70 prayer for free.
Yeah, that would be really. I think I would almost certainly go Mauritania first if that was the case, because I do think that early prayer is a pretty important like solve.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess like, so moving on, I want to talk about like the Slayer requirement. Like, when do you feel like you should just start going Slayer like right away, basically?
Well, you're probably going to pick up the Natural History Museum quiz, which is going to give you like some Slayer levels there. You probably want to wait until you're past like the 2nd tier, so you get 8 times. You get a little more XP out of that. And then for the rest of it, I mean, I think 55 Slayer is going to be really quick anyway. So like, if you're solving prayer a different way, then you could potentially use that museum lamp if it's there, or diary lamps to kind of like get you up above that 55 requirement. I think for the starter area, it was like 56 or 57 to like actually get a Slayer creature up there. So you do have like a little bit more to go if you're not going something like Remnick. But I think Slayer is going to be really fast anyway. I mean, even if you didn't do that, you complete the Natural History Museum quest, you pick up a task, and like, I think within a task or two, you'll be there anyway. Like, I don't think it'll take a long time.
Yeah, wait, I'm curious because I'm thinking right now. I didn't actually check this. Can you get rats as a Slayer task? Because I know that there's like a different like Slayer list. So I'm thinking like, what if you get rats and then you go do Scurrius as your like you make like if you do that, I feel like that would be so sweet. Like you would get some really really good rates, but I don't know if you can get them. Let's see. I can look it up right now. I think I have this.
Well, but the task lists are uniform to your areas, aren't they? Through all the Slayer Masters. So I don't know if you would get like. It sounds like something that Turiel would give, but I don't know that he would actually give that during leagues.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at it, but it doesn't tell me what Slayer monsters get added from Misthalin and Karumja. I would have to go find some stuff. Damn, what a bummer. I was trying to see if I could find something cheeky there.
Yeah, I guess if you could, but then again, well, we don't know right now whether or not we're going to get a Slayer Relic. Presumably, they'll still have something like that, but we won't know until tomorrow. So if you can't pick your task, then I mean, I'm assuming the odds wouldn't be very good of you getting that anyway. But
no, you can't get you can't get rats. Damn, bummer. You can get like cows, goblins, minotaurs, and zombies. Maybe that changes this year. Maybe they add it. Maybe they add it just because of Scurious.
They add it for Scurious.
We'll see.
I still like so Prayer getting to 43 feels like a pain in the butt because we don't really have like great ways of training it. But Slayer, you just go and you kill stuff and like you're there. So like I really don't think that a 55 Slayer requirement is going to take very long, just because you got like the league's multiplier on top of all this. So like 2-3 tasks, I think you're there, and like it doesn't even have to be high level tasks either. You know, go and kill 100 cows. I mean, like yeah, you're not going to get a lot of Slayer XP, but like you also don't need that much anyway because of the multipliers. So like I don't think it'll be a slow thing. But you do also have like diary lamps too that you can always use to kind of help pump that up if you're trying to rush to it.
Yeah, I almost think it's not a bad idea to just like instead of hard focusing on those 10 monsters, right? Because like I mean the first ones are good, but they're not insane, right? You're not like doubling your damage off of one combat mastery. I almost feel like I'd rather just start doing Slayer early on. Like kill a giant or something and then just start doing my Slayer task, and when I eventually get something like I don't know, whenever I get something that is a little bit higher, then maybe I can do the 10 monsters, or like I'll just like pick up bones from hill giants or something, or just literally anything basically that works, and just get your prayer through there, because like that 55 requirement, it's going to be waiting for you anyways, so you might as well kind of work on it while you level up your combat. I think all 4 of those are, I mean, I feel almost kind of weird because I think we are like overthinking it a lot. I feel like those first 4 you're gonna get in like 3 hours, right? Like you're gonna have 4 of them, and yeah, it's gonna take no time at all.
We're falling into the trap. We've got to optimize. Like no.
But I think for us it's a little bit like, I will say that I think for us it's a little easier because like we probably spend so much time thinking about it, but like man, I think there's some people who read that and they're like, dude, I don't even know what a Scurious is. Okay, like what do you mean I got killed by myself? What is that? That's a wildy boss, you know what I mean? Like, so I can understand for people like that, and I think for them this helps a lot to just have the sort of ideas running around of like ways that they can solve it. So yeah, but you know what, you're convincing me of like just start Slayer. I think after you get maybe your first region open, you just go and do Slayer, because even still with like giants, like you'll get some sort of giant related Slayer task too. And yeah, I mean, you do want to get up to probably like tier 3 on one of the combat masteries, just so that way you get like the attack speed buff. But like, I don't think you necessarily have to like push for that before doing Slayer, because the stuff that you get early on anyway is going to be relatively weak regardless. So I don't know. I guess I'm a little bit up in the air, because I'm like, defeat a giant you can do pretty easy. Defeating Scurious, I think you'll get there once you get prayer solved. And then it's just a matter of time to get that 10 monsters or the Slayer wreck. So maybe you find a giant, you finish it off, you kind of solve Scurious, you do it, once. Or if you want to spend, kill 10 Scurious if it feels like easy for you, then great, you like do that, then you're at the tier 3. Otherwise, you just switch to Slayer after you've like done your first Scurious, and then that'll get you the 10 monsters and the 55 Slayer. So you'll just
slowly tick your way up to that tier 3.
Yeah, and like we talked earlier about getting 40 mining just to finish Karumja and get your prayer done for Scurious. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I would rather go just do Slayer and pick up bones than mine until 40. So that's probably something I'm going to consider doing, is just doing it all natty at the start, you know, with just that base, that first relic. And then once you actually get the bones, then you'll do Scurious. You'll kill Scurious 10 times or whatever you get from your Slayer. And then like all like the next 3 kind of just line up for you really nicely. So yeah. And then we got the next 2, right? Next 2, I think, are a step up for sure.
Fight
like
Caves,
the mid-game.
100 combat. Well, at least with the 100 combat, I really think Scurious XP is going to be like very fast. So like by the time you get to tier 3 in the Combat Masteries, you're probably sitting around like tier 3, maybe even tier 4 for the relics. So you're going to be getting like a ton of combat XP. I think for the 100 combat level, like if you didn't already get pretty close to that through the Slayer requirement piece of this, you just go and sit at Scurious for like an hour and you're going to get there. So, and I think that'll also set you up really well for the fight caves. So if you're worried about like going and fighting Chad, just go and train like your main styles on Scurious for a little bit. You'll end up getting the spines, like they're going to be boosted rates, I'm pretty sure. So you'll be able to pick up a rat bone weapon really quickly, which is going to really help your XP as well.
So one thing I've been kind of super interested in is like, how do you get level 100 combat as like not melee? Like, what do you need for that? Because I think for melee, I think it's a joke. I think let me just put like 75 everything in there, and I'll put like, I don't know, 50 prayer or something like that. You can probably do 60 prayer. Okay, you probably need like 80s for your melees.
You know,
I'm looking at like,
I guess so. If you're mage or range, yeah, it's going to be a little more challenging because you're going to be likely on your off style training it up. But I kind of just see like the thing to keep in mind. Scurious spines are going to be an absolute ton of XP when you hand them in, assuming that they get the XP multiplier. And right now I'm assuming that's going to be true. I could see that maybe they decide against that because it would be a lot of XP. But if the spine rate is boosted and you're on that tier 4 relic already, you're getting them in like 1 out of 6 point something. So like it's going to be really common. When you turn them in for combat XP, on prayer it's like 56k per Scurious spine if you're getting the multiplier, or it's going to be like 80k in any of the other combat stats. So even if you're training on your main style and you're not putting that XP towards your off styles, you can turn in those spines and like pretty quickly get your levels up, because you know you spend an hour there, you're going to be killing Scurious really fast because you have all this extra power. So like even if it's 10 spines an hour, which I'm sure it's probably going to be more than that, like that's 800,000 XP in any of your other combat stats if you want it. So like, okay, maybe it's like 2 hours to get yourself up to, 100, 2 or 3 hours of Scurious. But like, I really think that it's going to be very fast. So like, you just train your main style, dump it all into defense, get all those combat levels up. Maybe like dump it into HP if you want to help pick up some levels there too, or prayer. And then like, that's pretty much it, right? You just keep leveling those up. You can ignore like whatever other styles that won't impact your combat level that much. So like if you're focused on range, then you're better off like defense, HP, prayer. Same deal, like if you're mage, you're better off doing mage, HP, defense, prayer. And then melee, you've got attack and strength, defense as well, but you can train that at that point yourself, I think, pretty easily. And then HP, prayer again. So it's, you kind of like, you can ignore those off styles if you really, really want to get up to 100 combat. But I also think it's probably beneficial to just train them up a little bit anyway, just so that you have those options available to you.
Yeah, so I'm looking into it a little bit, and I think you need about 80 base stats if you're melee to get 100 combat level, and you need about 90 for range and magic, which is a pretty big difference. Is there a world where you just get like 70 ranged and then just start dumping it into like attack and strength instead? That seems so weird, but like...
I mean, you could, because then you're already training range by killing Scurious. I mean,
like, just grab yourself a freaking bone mace or something. I just mean, like,
you're just
literally
changing styles. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could.
I'm just like, can you just like start? Because I feel like you'll still get. I almost like wonder if like, I don't know. I almost wonder if like putting in 1 point. No, because then that delays your 6. But now, I don't know. I started to think about that I think range and magic are going to hit that combat level 100 a lot slower than melee will, and that's a big buff for melee, I would say. However, range and magic are better at Jad, so I think that's actually kind of fair now that I think about it, because melee Jad is noticeably harder than ranged Jad or magic.
I don't know. I guess
kind of a cool balance.
Yeah, I guess in my mind though, I'm just like, you go and you stick out Scurious Or you do Slayer. So if you wanted something that isn't like, I'm going to go and grind Scurious for a couple hours, then you can do Slayer because you'll just pick up that combat XP. I think for people who are maybe more comfortable with the game, you'll probably do Jad before you hit 100 combat, just because like if you've done fight caves before a whole bunch of times, once you get protection prayers, and especially if you're range or mage, I think fight caves will be a breeze for you. But if you're someone who maybe you haven't gotten your fire cave before, then yeah, I think sticking it out at Scurious, doing Slayer, just getting your stats up, that'll end up making it way easier. You can also just focus on tasks and go and get other relics too. Like you don't have to like go and do those two things, which I think is nice, because since you've likely already gotten the 4 points before, like you already have a style, it's going to heal, it's going to attack really fast, so you can do a lot of stuff in the game and just like not even worry about it.
Right, yeah, you just basically just chase all your combat tasks and stuff like that. Like, I guess Asgarnia has like 30 black dragons and stuff, so you just focus, or I mean, yeah, you just do that, like all that stuff basically. Start getting into, I feel like you could, especially with like range and stuff like that, like you mentioned, right, like doing Scurious, but I think once you're at like 80, 85 ranged, there's a good chance you could probably start doing like pretty decent bosses. Let's say you do kill Jad, right? Which I think I think it should be pretty easy. You literally just safe spot every mob and pray the right thing as range. Like you should be fine doing Jad for most people, I would say. And then once you get that tier 5, now you get the double attack speed, and you can probably just start like, I almost think for ranged you might want to fight an echo boss before you get your 100 combat, because I think you will actually be able to start doing them.
Yeah, I think range especially, I mean magic to some degree as well, it's just because you get that space between you and whatever you're fighting, you're going to get a lot more options available to you early on. It just, and I think especially for range, just because I think range has so many weapon options, I think that there's a lot of like 3-tick stuff that's out there that'll be available to you, and those are going to be really strong once you get to that tier 3 combat mastery. And even still, like with tier 4 for the healing, every 5th range hit, like everything that's tier 3 goes down to, or tier 3, everything that's 3-tick goes down to 2-tick. So like you're going to be healing quite a lot as well because you're attacking so quickly. So I agree. Yeah, like I think range especially, it can do stuff early. I think even mage you could like maybe depending on what the echo boss is. But yeah.
Yeah, I think like 'cause I'm just thinking right now, like I'm thinking out loud basically. A lot of people are going Premonic with ranged, right? Like what if, by the time you're like 75, you just start like safe spotting Rex or something like that. Maybe you don't have the gear, or because you can safe spot Prime as well, because if you stand at like the right spot, you can kind of not like safe spot, but you only have to deal with one prayer at a time basically. And now I know people are going to say, okay, before you come in and say like, you don't ranged Rex, Mr. Doubleshine, okay, you're supposed to do magic. Okay, you have insane accuracy. You're probably going to be fine, okay? Like, you guys don't realize how crazy the high accuracy is. Like, I went in there, I remember I had like an abyssal whip, and I just started hitting all of them, all 3 of them. I would just sit there and just rip them all down, didn't do any swaps. So, yes, you will probably be able to ranged Rex, probably. I don't know for sure. It'll probably work. And then you could like start, I don't know, maybe you start farming your the Echo Orb early on and do that. Like, that's some cool options there. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I like that the order, I really am glad that the order isn't like, it's not relevant, because I think that makes it so much cooler that you can skip one of them and move on to something else instead.
Yeah, all the people who love to do Zuck, I can see it. The early Zucks just to get your like 5th point or whatever.
Yeah.
There's gonna be plenty of people that do that.
I think it's cool. Yeah, and then I think the cool thing is like, yeah, again, we talked about like the first 6 and how you can kind of get those done, and now you'll have your big power spike for all your styles, and you're pretty much good to just start taking on the harder content and getting that like extra little benefit. I've even considered this in the past as going like 3 points into ranged early to get try to get like a Drygor blowpipe from Calphite Queen, and then you use that to carry you and get 6 points in magic or something, and you don't even have to kill a Zuck because that's only 9 that you've invested so far. I don't know if that's going to work 100%, mainly because I think that the first like 6 tasks are already pretty easy to do, and they're not going to take you that much effort. So I feel like you just run it down, whatever style you want to go. Honestly, I don't think you need to do like the cross off. Whatever style you like, you just start putting your points into it, and you'll get it. Like, again, we were talking about like day 2, like, you can probably kill Jad like day 2, day 3 and stuff like that. Especially with range and magic, you're gonna really do great.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think to echo that too. These first 6, and probably even like your first echo boss, if not your second, it's all gonna be the first couple days. I really don't think it's going to take that long for folks to get through them. So as much as we're like talking about all of these different options and things, like yeah, I think you will be very powerful in the game like within the first couple of days, and you'll be able to take on like pretty much everything at that point.
Yeah, a lot of the monsters are Slayer tasks this time around too, right? So you will have to
Yeah,
have like the Slayer level to get into them, and I think that's definitely something to consider. Is like having an Echo Boss that's a little bit earlier on that you can like challenge. Even things like Grotesque Guardians, they only take 75 compared to like Cerberus is like 91, right? That I think is a very good thing to have in your regions. Is just something you can fight pretty early. You won't need that really high Slayer level to do, and you can try to brute force your way to like one Echo Boss kill and get your I guess get that mastery from there. Do you think they would make the Echo Orbs like rare?
I mean, I hope not.
Yeah,
think that,
I feel like that feels awful, right? Like
I mean, I was envisioning something like 1 in 50, 1 in 25, something like that, where
yeah.
they don't want you to just like get it on the first go, but they also don't want you to have to farm like 800 KBD to get an Echo Orb. Like,
Yeah,
so
I worried about that. I hope there's some kind of like max cap, like with the Calphite Queen head. Hopefully
Yeah,
it's
I
closer
can
to
see
like
that.
Vorkath, because I think the worst thing would be like, let's say you do have a task that's like kill 500 KBD, right? And then you end up doing the regular King Black Dragon like 350 times before you get the Echo Orb, and then you're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, cool. Like, no, now I can do the fun boss of this really trash boss. Like, I hope it's pretty early and they give you that access, and at least you have that option to go and take it on. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, I think
Even if you
you're,
get smoked, even if you get absolutely smoked, I think that would be pretty cool.
yeah. No, I think you're right. I will be surprised if they don't do some sort of like dry protection or whatever you want to call it. Like, yes, if you get it early, great, but then like you're guaranteed it at like 50 kills or whatever. Because yeah, since there's such like a big central thing for this league, yeah, it would really suck if it was like a God Wars item and you have to go, 700 dry for it. No, don't
Yeah.
do that, please.
And I think the actual like Echo weapons, I don't want those to have like dry protection or anything like that. I think that should be the Wild West. You know what I mean? Like, obviously it shouldn't be like a 2,000 drop rate or something like that, but I'm okay with those being on the like higher end versus like, I think the orb itself to access the boss, like, yeah, that should obviously be chill.
I don't know though. I mean, I think even with the Echo items, I don't know if they need like dry protection per se, but I also don't know that I would want them to be like crazy rare. I think there's some sort of middle ground, because I also don't know that I want to go and farm like 500 Echo Soul to get his items. You know what I mean?
I have a number in mind. What would you say would be a good one?
Well, I mean, I guess I'm thinking again, like kind of 1 in 25, 1 in 50, kind of similar for like the Echo Orb. It's just obviously the later you go and fight the Echo bosses, the easier time you have to kill it. So you're able to like get to that a little bit faster than if you tried, Ruined Scimitar and you go into KBD like you were talking about earlier. Like, are you going to kill 50 of them? Probably not for the Echo boss either, So it's like, but if you do manage to kill one and you get lucky, then cool.
Yeah, I was thinking like, for me, it has to be better than 1 in 100, or else I think it's going to be a bad system. That's like I think that's the rare, and this is like after the drop rate. So when I say 1 in 100, I don't mean 1 in I mean like actually 1 in 100 chance. Either that or some kind of protection. But I feel like probably 150 to 175 is where I'm expecting it to be. But I think it also depends on the boss itself. You'll probably see different drop rates for different bosses, but that's like roughly the expectation, where it still feels like a bit of a grind. Should feel good to get the item, but not like, like you mentioned, you shouldn't be literally farming 700 to get one item. That's like not even ultimate best in slot. So
Interesting. Okay, so you're looking for like a little bit more of a grind than what I'm envisioning for these, because
I kind of want a bit more of a grind to it. But like, I think that's just because this is the main part of leagues, is these bosses and stuff. So I want it to feel a little bit special to get them. I can understand it being a bit more common though. And again, I'm doing like pretty conservative numbers. Like, if it's more than that, I'm totally fine with that. I don't want it to be like 1 in 5 or something. That would be kind of lame. But like I don't want it to feel as like easy to get as some of the other items. It should feel maybe like a bit less than getting like a mega rare from a raid, So
yeah, and I guess I should say, when I'm thinking about like 1 in 25, 1 in 50, that's not. I don't mean like with. I guess it'd be following the drop multiplier. So like
yeah.
Because, 1 in 25,
like,
and then
like
it becomes 1 in 5. I'm like, no.
Well, that's what I worry is
like,
if it's like a 1 in 5, 1 in 10, and you kill like 20 times and you get it, you're like, what the? Like, I don't know. I feel like that would be kind of whack too. Because it's so easy, I think, to brute force content in leagues. If you really want to, you can get through just about anything if you like really try. So
yeah.
Now consistent, efficient clears, that's a little different.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know. I'm so stoked for it. I think the systems in place are just. I think that it just gives that longevity to leagues that I think it kind of needed, because I was really worried about the Trailblazer format kind of becoming like the standard moving forward, and I thought that
Hmm.
people would just get kind of sick of it really, really fast. And yeah, I'm kind of really glad that we've seen all this. Oh, also, I love that there's horizontal progression, which is something I've kind of wanted in leagues for a while. I think people get kind of consumed by the task grind when the only thing you care about is like tasks and points and stuff like that. And then once you stop caring about tasks and points, it's like, wait, what do I even do in this game now? I think
Yeah.
having different like goals in mind is pretty cool. Even in the early game, right? You're routing like, oh, this is something I really want to stress for beginners and stuff like that, or if you've never played leagues before. There's kind of a fine balance between doing tasks and doing points, because relics unlock through points and like your passives unlock through points, but regions unlock through tasks. So regions reward doing super like easy, basic, like the fetch quest kind of quests, right? Or not
Hmm.
quests, but the tasks,
Yeah.
like the really simple, like talk to this person. And then unlocking your regions, you kind of want to get into like those medium and those hard ones, especially because a lot of them is like defeat one of this boss, which you can do, right? You might not be the cleanest kill, but probably get it done once.
Yeah, that's true. I will say I'm still like, I'm a little nervous for what they're gonna do with this format at like a yearly pace, because while there has been a lot of changes for this year, I do wonder like how much of this they're able to reproduce in future years. So like Combat Mastery is totally new, Echo Boss is totally new. Every year is like, I mean, they were kind of doing it every other year before now, give or take. You know, I guess like there's probably some spots where they did it, you know, back to back, or there was a little more space in between. But like having it as frequently as they're wanting to, or what they've said that they want to, and kind of locking the overall format to this sort of like region piece, I'll be really curious to see how they can carry that forward. Because I am a little worried after like, you know, 2 or 3 more leagues, if the format feels dry and they stick with it, then, you know, the hype for leagues will start to kind of fade.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm trying to be somewhat optimistic with it, you know, because like I totally understand. Like I think I was in the same boat and stuff like that. But for me, I think the idea behind Echo Bosses, like they could rotate that every year and just try out new stuff
Yeah.
and just put in like a new mechanic. Like man, I had a lot of fun just coming up with ideas for some of the Echo Bosses, right? Like what mechanics we're gonna see with them. And I think that they could like rotate that around, do some things there. The new items I think really help a lot, where they could just throw in an item. Like, I mean, we saw what happens when you just throw in really good weapons or really good jewelry into a region, and suddenly
Yep.
everyone's suddenly a big fan of the content in Fremenix. So like, wow, you guys are really
Oh,
excited for
that
it,
was
right?
that was
Like,
dirty. Okay, I was like, you have to go Fremnik if you want like best in slot build, because the jewelry is so good. And I'm like, but the content is still like basically the same. I'm like, I don't know if I actually want to do Fremnik content, but like, yeah, I want the necklace and the ring. Like, gosh dang it! At least they made the Duke better. All right, I did appreciate
yeah.
that they're making the Duke better, because I think that was like one of the biggest negatives of the Fremnik region. Like, oh my god, I gotta do this like 30 to 40-second route to like skill while like running around right before I fight the boss. Relics don't do anything for that. Like, if I'm gonna farm Duke for 300 kills and get this task, like, why am I not just doing it in the main game at that point?
Yeah, it's actually like kind of crazy how like some of that stuff doesn't survive the transition to leagues.
Yeah.
I think that one was really awful. I'm worried about Perilous Moons for that same reason, with like the intermission phases. I really am scared about just hating every time I'm in there. Other than that, like I think they did a really good job of things like Hunliff. We talked about Soul. You get to skip the waves.
Yeah.
Zaya, you don't have to plant Hispori anymore. You just can do Hispori as many times as you want now.
Ooh,
Like,
ooh. Can we pause on that for just 1 second? It says Zaya
I'll go for it.
removing favor. I don't know that we
Oh
said
yeah,
that. Like,
huge. Oh
no,
my god.
no
Wait,
more,
is that, is that,
favor. Like, I
did
think
we have
that's
favor last year? Is that real? Am I like,
yeah. I'm
did I
pretty
like
sure.
wipe that out of my mind?
So
Oh my
like,
god, I can't believe that's
favor.
a massive change.
It's gone. That, and they're also gonna auto complete the Kingdom Divided quest. So like, what I think that's the like the top level one that gives you the spell book, right? I'm remembering that.
Mhm.
So like, you basically, when you open up Zaya, you just get all of Zaya, which I think is great. No more like pushing the plow for like 4 hours because you picked this region and you're like, why did I do this to myself? No, you get everything.
Yeah, I actually because I did want to talk about this a bit, because I did want to have a little note on this, and that's while I fix my background real. There's been a lot of changes since last leagues. Do you want to talk about those a bit for people who might not have played since last leagues and are interested?
Sure.
I guess. Yeah.
I say, yeah. You have some listed out. I've got a couple, although yeah, go for it. If you've got a list, we can just kind of like start talking through it.
Yeah, wait, I'm still trying to fix my stuff here. I'm just such a mess. Okay. Oh, it's so bad. Okay, anyways. The remove favor, that's pretty huge, right?
Yep.
I would say adding Scurious, that's a huge change. That's a big benefit. Very good for Mistlin. I guess also killing off Soul Wars and Pest Control, right?
Yeah. I guess it's not really a positive, but it is a change for this year.
Yeah. We talked about elemental weaknesses, right? For early game magic and mobs.
Elemental weaknesses. While we're still kind of in the Mistlin region, there's also Tormented Demons, which everybody's going to get. And then also the Armored Zombies for the Zombie Axe as well. Everybody's gonna be able to get that.
The Zombie Axe is actually massive. That thing is
five tick melee weapon. And
I'm like I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little sad because I was like, I saw that thing, I was like, okay, well, I guess everybody just goes Zombie Axe now. Like, this thing is absurd. It's gonna be a pain in the ass to farm because there is a lot of people probably farming it at the same time. But I think people will clear out of there eventually. You know, you'll be able to eventually get your axe.
Yeah. Well, and 70 smithing. I mean, that's in leagues, it won't take you like that long to get 70 smithing, but it is a requirement
Right.
you have to overcome as well.
I guess. Oh, you know what I didn't even think about, but that actually gives everybody a spot to do like bursting and barraging as well, even if you don't have a like multi-combat region. I hadn't thought about that. Or just a place to toss chins. Everybody gets chins at the Isle of Souls if you really want to do that, but it might be crowded. I don't think it wasn't that crowded after a couple weeks though. But yeah, that's a cool option. I would still probably do Scurious for all my combat training. What else? What are some other like, I guess maybe like regional changes that have happened? I think one that I would like to talk about is the Noxious Halberd from Araxor in Mauritania.
Yeah.
That thing is really cool, and I think it's a very big perk of melee right now is the ability to attack from range. It's going to make Inferno easier, fight caves a lot easier, and attack Zulrah with it now, which is awesome. Like,
yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Noxious Halberd, that was like the first thing that really sold me this league. And it's why Mauritania was like, my brain was just like stuck on Mauritania because of this.
Yeah, well, so this is more of like a general change, and we can talk about these as we go through some of the regions as well. Like items dropping as full items rather than components for like just a ton of stuff. So this really benefited like Mauritania getting the Guardian boots as just like straight up from the Grotesque Guardians. You don't have to worry about like combining it with Asgardia and then trying to figure that out. And then also the Rancor amulet from Araxor. So like it's a really strong melee amulet. You don't even really have to worry about going Fremnik if you didn't want to, because it still has really good stats. So I think Mauritania benefited a lot from that. And with the Noxious Halberd also coming from Araxor, and it's a 5-tick weapon instead of like all the other halberds are like 7-tick. So like it's a little bit faster as well. So it's going to really benefit from that tier 5 combat mastery. There's a lot of good things I think going for Mauritania, especially.
Yeah, that's that's definitely true. That's a big change. I think Mauritania is a big winner there. Zaya also with the Dragon Hunter Lance, as well as Kodai Wand. Those are two pretty big ones, I would say.
Dude, Dragon Hunter Lance, that one was such a pain in the butt to make before.
Oh, it was awful.
Like, and the regions that you would need to do it, because it was what? Zaya, Kandarin, and Asgarnia. And like, if you did that, you can't even really use it on anything. So,
yeah,
like,
I mean, use it for like Ulm, I guess, and Alchemical Hydra, but like you've already killed Alchemical Hydra how many times for it? So it's
I really like that one just because it means that you can like actually go and use it on some other stuff in the game. So if you wanted to do like Huey Coddle, for example, in Varlamore you can use it there. If you're going Fremnik, you can use it there for like Vorkath and not feel bad. Ruin Adamant dragons, like any of the lower level dragons as well. So you're suddenly able to like open up a lot of different options for yourself.
Yeah, I think it's just nice to like get the item when you get it, as opposed to like, oh, this is like a useless like scrap thing, right? That's like, again, like what I said about how like some things don't survive the transition to leagues. This is like a really, I think, positive change. Even if like, I think for some people like that like region combo aspect, but I don't know. I just don't. I think this opens up more flexibility and kind of it keeps every region a little bit more self-contained, right? Where you're picking it in like a vacuum, as opposed to like, oh, I need this and this and this because they blend together to like actually enable this. Yeah, that should come more from I think like your build, right?
Yeah, like Ferocious Gloves too. Man, Hydra as a boss like sucked before.
It
because
sucked.
like
It was so
because
bad.
like you have to do it for the tasks, but then you don't really get anything from it. I mean, like, yeah, great, it has some like supply drops or whatever, but you get like a Hydra leather, which you can't use unless you went Fremnik to like open up the vault, and then the Dragon Hunter Lance you couldn't use unless you went Kandarin as a Guardia to like combine everything together, and you can't do both of those things at the same time. So like you would never get a Ferocious Glove Dragon Hunter Lance build because it was literally impossible. And then like
Yeah.
good luck on the rest of your gear, because like are those region combos going to help you? It kind of depends where you went. So like yeah, I think it's been overall positive. It allows for a lot more flexibility in your choices, and I think that's what a lot of regions have really benefited from. I guess jumping back over to like Tormented Demons, I feel like kind of similarly about them. So being able to get both the Scorching Bow, I think, is that the name? I don't know.
I think so. Yeah, I was
Scorching Bow. There's like the
demon
purging
bow or something.
Purging Staff, and then the Ember Light. So like you could get 2 out of 3 of those if they gave us access to Tormented Demons, which they did. But they're also giving you Ember Light as like a full drop. So now it was going to be like a weird path if you're going to try and make that before, because you'd have to go to like the desert to get Dark Light, Karen to get Arc Light, and then you could make Ember Light. Like that was going to be like, you can, but it's just like it's not that fun. I think to go through and like do that combo if you wanted to like build around it, because then you can't use it. It's actually the same problem I have with like the elemental weakness builds for Magic, because you can make the build and then you're out of region choices, and then it's just like, okay, now what? You know?
Wait, I've got a message right now from Jagex HQ. They're putting it into my head right now, okay?
I'm waiting.
And this video probably won't even be up, okay? But I'm just gonna predict tomorrow's relic right now. I just know, okay? It just came to me. It's going to be a Slayer relic that increases weaknesses of mobs. So like dragon, elemental weaknesses, demon weaknesses.
Oh no.
Let me cook on this one, okay? Let me cook on this one. How cool would that be? Because a lot of Slayer mobs do have the elemental weakness, right? And now Kandarin is back, dude. We're back on the map, okay? They've been holding out on us till the last day, all right?
Kandarin's
come
back on the menu, boys.
Force. Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay, I don't know,
see.
but I think that would be pretty cool. I think a lot of people have wanted that. Like, I've seen some people asking for like the exposed like weakness kind of style of like.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that would be a cool relic, and it would work for Slayer because I think Slayer's been sort of kind of got the bin last year. Everybody kind of went for clues instead. So.
Well, and yeah, I guess in fairness, over the last year, we did get kind of like more stuff kind of filling out the weaknesses as well. So like Tormented Demons are new. Varlamore, you got like the Dragon Hunter Wand as well. They're now allowing like Dragon Hunter Lance to be a full drop there. You know, you get the Dragon Hunter Crossbow. That thing's been around for a while. So like there's definitely more options than with the increase of like, or I guess the introduction of elemental weaknesses. You have a lot of like potential if they treat it that way. So like just blanket weakness stuff goes up. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it'd be really strong, I guess, if they did end up going for that, depending on how much like percentage they give it.
Yeah, and it wouldn't just be a magic thing because you would get access to like the Demon Bane and the Dragon stuff too. So I think that could be kind of cool without being like a literally like, here you go, magic. This is like what you need to survive.
We need a relic that's just pick this to save Kandarin, applies elemental weaknesses to literally everything.
Right, yeah. And all people have said like that's gonna be a relic, and I'm like, there's no way. That would have been a major relic, right? Like, so that's never gonna be a relic.
It would have. I was holding out for maybe like the combat relic tier. They were gonna have one that it's like you don't really pick it, but like that way mages have that option, you know?
Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, like I don't care that much if like mage sucks like this year because you have other choices and stuff. So even if it's not, and also like it's honestly not even gonna be that bad. Like it's still gonna be cool. It's just not gonna be. I feel like it's probably not gonna be as fun as the other ones.
Yeah,
that's all.
Let's see.
Were there any other big changes that I'm missing? I'm trying to like think about some of the regions. Any massive changes?
Just looking at my notes. So, well, I guess like I don't know if we explicitly said, but raids getting the 3 big weapons. Any raid getting 3 big weapons. So T-Bow, Scythe, and Tumican Shadow. They can come from any of the raids. So like that's another thing that's kind of helped open up whatever choices that you want. So you're not kind of like shoehorned into one specific raid if you wanted to get it. And then also the Desert Treasure 2 bosses being available without the desert. That's something that's new for this league as well. So not only for like getting Virtus robes and having that as a magic option for the regions that have a Desert Treasure 2 boss, but they also will drop their ring piece completely as well. So especially because like I get, you know, the Fremnik Jewelry is really strong, but kind of like you mentioned, I don't think you'll be going in there that early. And even if you are, you're probably not going to be able to really farm out for that jewelry early. So picking up a Desert Treasure 2 boss, like those are way easier to farm early on. And so being able to get like a full or full Tor ring from Varlamore, or even in the Fremnik region itself, like you get the full Mage ring, the Magus ring from the Dew. Even Asgarnia, like what is that one? I know it's like the upgraded Warrior ring. It's not like it's not the most
Bellator or something like that.
It's not like the most strength bonus, but like getting an extra ring slot with some extra stats on it, I mean, it's gonna be good. So like,
yeah, I mean, something. There's not a lot of good rings in the game in general.
Yeah, rings.
So,
Rings are tough. So I think that's been a really positive change too. Just kind of like, even if it ends up just helping you like bridge that gap on your way to better gear, like I think it'll be really good. Brimhaven also got tweaked a little bit. So I know like in general, agility has been kind of like one of the worst things for people to train. And, you know, great if you can find like a high level rooftop course, but if you didn't end up going Kandarin, then you didn't have a lot of options. And like, I think Brimhaven means everybody gets that option. Like the XP was adjusted for a lot of the agility courses. So Brimhaven's maybe not like top of the top, but it is still pretty good. They split out the reward tickets. So you're always going to get XP tickets. And then you also get like other shop tickets alongside that. So you no longer have to choose between like, oh, am I going to buy the Snapdragon for my task? Or am I going to get an extra like 30k XP drop? You actually get both now. And so I think...
Speaking of agility courses, Wilderness also got a pretty big... That one's a lot better now. You get like the streak bonus every lap you do. And then you like turn in... Or I think you get like a resources and just cash. I mean, Wilderness already didn't have a problem with like gold and stuff like that, but I think Wilderness is going to be a pretty cool region this time around because you're going to have access to the agility course. Zombie pirates are also pretty damn great. They give a lot of money, and then like of course everything else in there just like it prints cash, it prints supplies.
Well, zombie pirates is new as well, right? I don't think that was around.
Yeah, zombie pirates are new too, which are a lot. Like, I think you can get into them like with literally just overheads, right? And you'll start getting pretty good stuff.
And sorry, what else were you saying?
Yeah, one thing I will say though about the Wilderness course, because I think a lot of people are worried about this, and that's like, what do you think the state of the Wilderness is going to be when it's popular?
It only takes one person like trolling people, you know, like taking you out on the Wilderness course. It only takes one, and I have a hard time believing that there's not going to be at least one person out there that doesn't just want to like ruin people's day. So it does make me really nervous because I think a lot of people are going to take Wilderness this time. I think the blade that comes from the Echo KBD, like it's really strong. That shield is really strong as well. It's like best in slot melee shield, better than any of the defenders. So like I think a lot of people are going to take the Wilderness, and particularly for anything that's like deep wild, it's kind of a pain in the butt to get back to unless you have like the total recall relic, which comes a little bit later. And so early on, I don't know. I mean, it only takes one person going like, oh, wouldn't it be fun if I just like ended this guy at the agility course? And like they don't even really get anything for it other than ruining your day. But like,
yeah, and that's like that's important to know, is that you won't lose anything if you get killed. I think your grave or your gravestone or whatever, it spawns right next to you in Lumbridge or wherever your respawn is.
Yeah.
I'm worried about Black Chins because I have not heard confirmation if you lose those. I'm really, really hoping it's not the case. That being said, like Wilderness is enabled, or PvP is enabled in the Wilderness, and like there's a very good chance that might happen, especially on day one. I don't doubt that. It'll probably like completely go away by like the second week. At like that's super cool. Honestly, probably by like day 3 or 4. I don't think it's gonna be like that, but like you mentioned, it only takes like one person just killing you 3 times while you're trying to do the agility core, and you're probably just done. You know what I mean? Like you're probably just logging off for the day, right? I think that while the Wildy is a really good starting zone, I do not think you should take it first. I think it should be your second pick, because I don't want to be like, I don't want to put somebody in a situation where their only zone is the Wilderness and like Lumbridge, you know, and then you feel like, okay, well, I can't play here right now because it's just like, it's there's a term, it's called like tragedy of the commons, when you have like everybody. It's like a big field, a big nice grazing field, and that's how the Wilderness has always been seen. It's like this nice grazing field. Okay, well now if there's too many cows eating the grass, right? Like maybe it's not such a cool zone anymore, right? Like I'm telling you, all the people said Wildy bad. It's because they wanted you not to go there, because they don't want you like the zone. Most of the bosses aren't in instances, right? So you're trying to kill a boss and somebody else shows up, like, you know. And if you like that, that's totally fine. Hey, go for it and stuff. But just like be aware of that. There are like the mass bosses. I think most people are going to be pretty chill after the first couple of days. I would just personally recommend like don't take Wildy as your first zone if you're not 100% like positive about it. Take it as your second, take it as your third. Like it'll be fine, but I feel like you could just have your day one ruined, and like we all know how bad any small thing on day one can just ruin your experience. So
Yeah,
I would just play it safe.
Yeah, I'd agree. And as much as I'm like talking about this, I've taken the wilderness before on like a second account. For last league, I did that, and there was only ever one time where someone like actually went out of their way to kill me, and then they like I forgot to. You can go into your settings, make it so your food doesn't drop to the ground. So like that was a big thing that I learned. You still keep all of your stuff, but if you have like unnoted sharks or whatever, they'll drop into a food pile because that's one of the settings in there. And then he like camped my shark pile until it despawned. So I was like, okay, screw you, buddy. But it's like outside of that one instance, I didn't have any problems in the wilderness. Like you would see people, even if you were like, they would hop for you. You're like in the Rev Caves and they're like, oh, cool, you got like the Dark Beast locked down. That's fine. Moving on. And same deal with like one of the bosses too. They're like, oh, this dude's killing the boss. That's totally fine. Okay, good luck with it, buddy. See you. And then they hop. So like, I agree with you. I think outside of maybe that initial time frame or like some YouTubers doing some like crazy PvP builds or whatever, like I think it'll be mostly chill and just like every once in a while you'll get somebody who comes in and they just like that's their good time is one tapping you because they did like some sort of crazy mage build and then like their max hits better than your HP, so they always one tap you. You know what I mean? So like there's gonna be that every once in a while, but for the most part, yeah, you'll just be able to like sit there, you'll farm rest for a couple hours, nothing will happen.
Yeah, I think it'll be a pretty chill zone and stuff like that, and also like again, PKers will get bored in a couple days. Like they'll leave for sure. Just don't set yourself up for failure like right off the rip, because I don't know, I worry about that. So but that's it. I think that's Wildy for me. Any other regions have had massive stuff? I'm trying to think. Of course Varlamore, like that's pretty massive, right?
Yeah,
it's a whole new region, right?
Varlamore just is like a new thing in general. I don't know. I'm planning on going Varlamore myself because I think it'll be really fun to take on the Colosseum. I think I said that earlier as well. You get things like mixology in there to help with herb lore a little bit. Moon's armor, I think that'll be really interesting. I'm really curious to do like a Blood Moon build for melee, and I think that'll also come online super early, so you can upgrade it to a scythe later, but like in the meantime, you kind of get like half of that power early on. Huey Coddle, giving you like some upgraded range armor as well, better than Blessed D'hide. So like, I think Varlamore is a solid region, even though it doesn't necessarily have like great synergy with other regions. So I don't see it as like a good combo into other stuff, just because like all of the things in Varlamore, since they're so new, they're kind of like standalone. It's very encapsulated as a region. But like outside of that, I think it's a fun pick. And
yeah,
it definitely has a lot of skilling stuff too.
I was gonna say it's to me a very like standalone region. It's very similar to Zaya, how that was, where it just kind of has everything you need. One thing very big about Varlamore is that it has another stonemason, so you're not gonna have to go Fremenic to build like a max house or to take advantage of like Golden God giving you stupid amounts of money. And I think that's a pretty big draw of Varlamore. I like that that's been broken up a bit. You can kind of go in any direction there. And like you mentioned, I think the skilling methods, there's like enough of them that are really good. Varlamore thieving is similar to Trickster, where you just have long periods of downtime and very little movement. That's pretty good. Like the shops are man, I I gotta go look at those shops. Have you looked at them? I feel like there's a lot of good shops in Varlamore, no?
Yeah, there's a lot of shops. Well, when I did the area deep dive on there, I think I got most of them. There's like the best gem shop in the game is in Varlamore, because I think that one goes up to uncut rubies. So like that one's really good. You can get a ruined pickaxe because there's a shop for that as well. You've got the stone. Oh my god,
really?
The stonemason.
That's so good.
Yeah, so you got the stonemason. It's got just like a ruin shop that does. Trying to remember. I think it's natures and law ruins that you get from that one. So like it's a little bit better than what you get in Varrock. So you get like some additional options there. A lot of different like food shops type of things. So if you want to do that, Golden God Relic, if you can like note stuff, that can basically solve your cooking for you if you wanted it to. Let's see.
One of the better prayer methods, I would say. It does require 30, right? But you just get like bone shards from everything you do there. So like you're kind of like solving your prayer pretty chill on the side. I think that's always a nice benefit to have. And then I guess as far as like bosses go in Varlamore, I honestly think all of them are like there's actually like a pretty good progression, I would say now. You do have early game bosses like Perilous Moons, like Moxliaddle, Huicoddle, right? But then like they've added
Don't worry about the names. I butcher them all the time.
Yeah, it's so hard. I swear I can't. But
don't ask me about the blood
even
moon
they
weapons.
don't call them anymore. Even the devs don't call it by their real name. Okay. But yeah, like Vardorvis has moved to Varlamore now, and then you have Colosseum. So I think that there's actually a really nice mix to do there. And I like that. I like that there's a lot of good progression. That's something that I think Mauritania kind of lacks is that, like, yeah, you have barrows, but like barrows are so boring. Like, they're so boring compared to Perilous Moons. Yeah.
Tier rip for barrows. Yeah, Mauritania
Well,
is
I don't know.
more...
I feel like they're cool. They're cool with like the teleport tricks. Like I will say that makes barrows a lot more fun. Also, for people who might not have played leagues before, it really makes like killing one brother and then you just teleport downstairs to the crypt. It makes that like a very viable like you would never do that in the main game, killing one brother, but just because you can do it in like 6 seconds, it's actually kind of cool to just like turbo target farm one brother for like an hour, 2 hours and get their set.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Yeah, Mauritania, I guess a lot of the progression there is locked behind Slayer. Yeah, I mean, it's basically like Barrows, Slayer, and then Theater Blood. So there's not like a ton in the middle for you to do outside of like you're just doing Slayer related stuff. But it's not.
I mean, there's like the Nightmare, but like that's like higher than Theater of Blood, honestly.
Yeah.
So it's up there for sure.
Yeah, I don't know, but I will say, so for Varlamore, the bosses are very melee focused. I know I've seen some people like concerned with that as well. And I do understand that. I as much as we'll get like extra accuracy, I don't know that you'll be able to like range down bosses until you get to the tier 6 passive, and then you'd have that option. I think for mage, it's probably not a good region, just because like I don't know that any of those bosses are going to be particularly easy to mage. I'm sure that you can do it. Like once you get up, you get your accuracy, you get a shadow, you can probably do it. But I think early on, you're not really going to be doing that. Maybe like some waves in the Colosseum early on, but like you're probably not going to take down Soul until you've got like max mage set up.
Yeah, you also don't even get anything for mage, I'm pretty sure, from that region, right? Like you get the blue moon set, and that's about it. Yeah, but I think you're right. Like melee, very, very good. Ranged, wait for tier 6. Magic, play another account if you want to go fight the Colosseum.
Go to Kandarin.
Pretty much it. Yeah, go to Kandarin. I will say about Colosseum, it's only 11 waves, and they do sometimes just solve themselves for you. So, like, if people are worried about that one, I think it's significantly better content than the Inferno. I think it's pretty easy to get through, like, kind of just by getting lucky occasionally. And so, yeah, you'll get a chance. And Soul is, like, the coolest. Like, here's the thing. Soul, in my opinion, is the coolest boss in the game, and then Vardorvis is the second coolest boss in the game. Kind of unfair that a region gets both of them, so I'm a little jealous right now.
I haven't really fought either of them, so I couldn't tell you. I'll take your word for it, though.
They're really cool, but they are like very they're very like, how should I say this? It's like you're playing like DDR almost. Like you're like in the moment.
There's a lot of mechanics going on.
There's a lot happening at once. It's still really fun because you're doing a lot of damage too, but like there's a lot of mechanics going on. You don't get to just like take your like hands off the wheel and just like chill. Like you could, like with Zulrah, for example, when you have enough damage, you literally kill Zulrah while she's like spitting. And just nothing even happens. So not quite like that with them.
Let's see. Anything else? I think that's really about it. Far as
I mean, I'm sure there's some minor changes and stuff like that. Like I'm sure there's some league specific stuff, but as far as like main region, like huge changes, I think that's like the big ones. I'm sure we probably missed something here or there, but
yeah, I'm sure people in the comments will roast us about the huge changes that we overlooked.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Varlamore has just been such a big part of it.
Yeah,
so that's why I think it's gonna be fun for people who have never, like, because I know a lot of people just straight up have not touched Varlamore at all.
Yeah,
I feel like that'd be kind of fun to go in with like leagues and experience some of that content, and I think that's gonna be pretty cool. Hunter rumors are gonna be pretty chill. I think there's a lot there.
Yeah, well, I made the bold prediction that it's gonna be the most picked region, and not because not because it's the strongest necessarily by itself, but I think just because it's new. So like I think a lot of people are going to want to pick it up just because it's new, just because like you can go and take on the Colosseum. Like that's pretty end game content, but get it with like leagues, power-ups and stuff like that. Although Echo Soul probably hurt its chances a little.
Yeah, so I think I expect like Fremennik and Mauritania to be like top 2 kings right now, and then I think Varlamore will like sneak in there as like third and stuff like that. I really hope though that people don't pick against it because of Echo Soul, because I think that's like, I don't want to say that's a mistake, but I kind of feel like that is a mistake. Like you shouldn't let that discourage you from doing Varlamore.
Yeah.
Unless you have like, unless you have like 3 super dense regions, then maybe. But
yeah, I mean, what I'll tell people, and like this is the same thing for myself. When I'm going into Varlamore, I am just assuming that I'm not going to beat Echo Soul. Like I do think I'll have the capability to do that, but I'm like planning around like, oh, I only get 9 points, because if it's really that hard, like, does getting 9 mastery points really hurt my leagues run that much? And I'm like, no, not really, because I'll have 6 points in one style, and then I'll have 3 points in another. Like, do I need the off-style healing? Probably not. Now, if you're going to do something like a 5-5 split, maybe that's a little bit more painful for you. But, you know, beyond that, like, I think it'll be fine. Like, even if you can't beat Soul, and I'm just like, you know, I've never done Coliseum, I've never beat Soul, maybe I'll never beat Echo Soul. I don't think that's going to be true just because of how powerful Leagues is. But even if it does end up being true, it's like, I don't think it really changes that much about Leagues for me. Like, great if I can beat him and get the extra point, but like, that is going to be like 0.1% of my Leagues experience, you know? And it's the same deal with like his Echo item drops. It'd be really cool to do like a prayer build kind of thing with that, with the Sunlight Spear. But like, if I don't get it, that's totally fine. Like, I'm just planning around that. I'm like, oh, Echo Soul stuff just doesn't even exist for me. Like, do I still have fun? Yeah, I think so.
I'm gonna make a hot prediction here, and I'm happy to be proven wrong on this. I don't think Echo Soul is going to be that hard relatively to Soul's difficulty, if that makes sense. I think the other Echo bosses are going to be a pretty significant increase. They're going to feel like actual bosses, but just because Soul is already so challenging and so demanding, there's not really a lot of room to add more. Like, I think I've joked in the past, I think it would be really funny if he spawns a Jad at half health or something like that. Like that would be like, it would be really silly and stuff like that. It would be kind of fun. They've had that really hard PVM challenge in like there was like the trials, the Inferno trials or whatever, right? But I don't think that they would do that as a region thing. So I think really the perk of Echo Soul is less to have a super hard version of Soul, but rather to have a repeatable, farmable version of Soul that you don't have to do the waves every time to get the boss drops. I think it's going to be a relatively minor step up, and then things like Dagonoth Kings, things like Cerberus, Hellfight Queen, King Black Dragon, those are the ones that are going to feel almost like new bosses. But like, you can't add that much more to Soul. He's already pretty hard. Like, what do you? I don't think they're gonna make it this like impossible challenge.
Yeah,
it has to be Grandmaster, because Coliseum is already pretty Grandmaster for, even with leaks, that's pretty tough for a lot of people. So I can understand.
Yeah, I guess my thought was, well, and I since I don't have experience in the Coliseum, I don't know how difficult this really makes it. But my thought was like, probably Echo Soul is all of the Coliseum like different abilities and things turned on, since as you go through
maybe
you think it'll be more than that.
Yeah, I don't think it will be that, because I actually don't think it makes that fight interesting. I think it just makes it really annoying, personally. I could see it having some of the more annoying ones turned on, but I think if it's just all the invocations turned on, it won't really feel like a very fun fight. And I think the reason why they're doing Echo Soul is because they want you to farm Soul over and over and over again and enjoy that fight, rather than having to do the Coliseum over and over and over again. Because once you've done the waves once, twice, that's not the fun part. Soul is the fun part. And that's my hot take. Again, if they decide to make a really hard, cool, I'll probably have some fun doing it, but I don't think that would be the best idea for I think they were very conscious about why they chose Soul, and I don't think it was to create an impossible challenge for Varlamore. That's my hot take. Yep, I'll stand by it. I guess. Oh, I mean, I won't stand by it if I get proven wrong, but we'll see.
I'll experience it regardless.
Yep. Yeah. I'll be watching. All right. If I don't end up choosing Varlamore, I'm gonna definitely have like Wooks on like hour 15 with like a Dorgishan crossbow and like a bone dagger. Just I don't know how. Like I'll watch. They'll figure out some way of doing it. So.
Oh, that'd be really funny.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's just about it. I've been kind of taking notes, and it's everything. I don't know. Did you have anything else you kind of wanted to chat about?
No, I mean, I think we probably covered it all. I mean, this is already a 2.5 hour chat.
Oh yeah, I know. I looked over. I was like, holy moly, we've been yapping.
Yeah, I know. People give me a hard time sometimes in the comments. They're like, this guy yaps, and I'm like, yes. And this is the cut version most of the time that you get. And so yeah, it's a good conversation though. I think we've covered quite a lot of stuff. I'll be really curious to see kind of what we end up taking out of this.
Yeah, I think I'm glad how I think we covered all the stuff we kind of wanted to talk about and stuff like that. And hopefully it doesn't feel like we're just, I guess, like listing off like noob tips, but actually just having a more like, because I was kind of, I didn't want to go in and be like, all right, let's just like list noob tips. You know what I mean? Because I don't think that's very fun. But just having a conversation, I think, about some of the early game pathing and options and stuff like that. I think a lot of people appreciate that because I do think a lot of the space gets dominated by this like efficiency mindset.
Yeah.
Right. And it reminds me a lot of somebody like going to a buffet and they like pack their plate with everything and then they eat like 2 things and they're like, all right, well, I'm done. And it's like, why did you do all that? That like you could have just started simple and just like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people come in expecting like, okay. Comment that triggers me the most, okay? I get triggered by this so much, okay? It's when somebody tells me that Kandarin is bad because it has the lowest amount of points. Like, brother, you are not even doing half of the points in your region, okay? Like, what are you talking? Like, I'm sorry, okay? You're quitting in like a week and a half, right? Like, you haven't touched a single GM task. You've done like 6 raids. Why do you care about Kandarin having the lowest amount of points? Like, that is, oh god. I'm not saying that Kandarin is good. I'm just saying that that's not what makes Kandarin bad, okay? Like, anyways,
that's the person who takes the 3 raids regions and then that's it.
And then they cry. Then they go on Reddit.
They get like 6,000 points in each of those, and then that's it.
Yeah, oh god, that's been my struggle because I don't know. I just wish people realize that like I don't think Leagues is made or the expectation is not for you to do all the points, to complete all the tasks, or to get all the items and stuff like that. It's just to like go in, have some fun, and when you stop having fun, you can quit. All right, you're allowed to quit. Okay, you could go.
No, you can never quit. Game, you can never leave. Just like RuneScape,
I think
you never quit. You only ever go AFK.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, you can go, but like a lot of people, because we'll see this like a month later, right? You'll see so many people like, does anybody else feel like League is getting kind of boring? Like, why am I not just playing the main game? I'm like, okay, go and play the main game then. Like, that's okay. You're allowed to do that. You don't have to play Leagues. Obviously, I love Leagues. I think it's super fun. I'll probably play, a good chunk of it. But I think, if it's not something you enjoy, like, don't play it either, right?
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, I think it would be fun. I don't know if I'll have the time this year or not for it, but I would like to do maybe like 2 accounts, and I could go as many as like 3 accounts as well. So I mean, there's like so much stuff that I would like to try, and I'm only really committed to like my first build or my first path or whatever. So I'm gonna do like Varlamore, Isaiah, and probably Fremnik, and just build something out that way. But I really wanted to try like a magic build, so if I have the time, I might end up going like Kandarin, Fremnik, Mauritania, even though like there's not gonna be a lot of elemental weaknesses. The bosses that do have it, I'll just go enjoy that. And I also think Mauritania has some really interesting builds too, with like all of the different barrow sets and stuff. So like, I think there's a lot of possibilities. I just don't know if I'll personally have the time to be able to go and try all of those.
Yeah, it feels like the people who roll like the flavor of the month, and I'm probably going a super flavor of the month build with like range and blowpipe and justy and all that stuff. Like, I'm not one to talk, but I think those people are the ones who typically get burnt out faster, and then the ones who have the slower, lower damage, but like just weird setups, like you're running around with some like clue scroll item because it gives you more prayer bonus, like just wacky things like that. I think those are the people who end up having more fun, and the progression actually feels more natural than some of the more like spiky progression that you'll get from like Shadow. I think last year was a big example of just the spiky progression that I think it makes it less fun than more steady and slow progression.
Yeah, well, and especially
more of that.
Yeah, especially if it's behind something that's really grindy, because I guess to kind of like circle back towards the beginning of our talk, like Asgarnia, it's just, as much as I enjoy God Wars for how simple it is, if I have to go and kill 3,000 things in God Wars again, it just slows the progression down a lot, to the point where I start to wonder, like, do I really want to be doing this in Leagues? Like, why would I not just go and like farm this boss in the main game then? And I think the more times you kind of like run into that train of thought, the more likely you are to burn out, because Leagues is really fun, and I think it's part of that fun is like getting all of this power, getting all this unlocks. So like the faster that you go through it, the more you've kind of like experienced that part of it, and then you'll just be done, So it's okay if it takes a while.
Yep. Oh man, there's one more thing I was gonna say, but it's slipping my mind. I think it was important.
It'll come to you.
Oh, I hope it comes to me in just a second. Otherwise, I'm gonna remember in like an hour. I'm gonna message you on Discord, and then yeah. What was I was talking about? Oh, like burning out. All right. Well, anyways, it'll come in a bit, I'm sure. I'll put it as
a really important thing. Make sure to press record for this. Oh no.
Oh yeah, no. Oh, God. So
imagine.
I've screwed up. I've screwed that up way too many times. It's actually so embarrassing. So yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess we can call it there unless something else comes to mind for you.
Nope. I mean, it'll come in an hour or so. When I'm like eating cereal. I'm sure it's there somewhere. Wait, okay. What was I talking about? What am I doing? Oh, Yeah, there was one more thing. Okay. I think because we talked about making multiple accounts, I feel like, and I hate being like, I hate criticizing leagues and stuff. But I feel like the one last step I would love to see in leagues is like having like 3 profiles to pick from, because I feel kind of weird that I have to like bond up like different accounts and stuff like that. Like,
Mm.
I don't know. That just feels a little bit weird to me. Feels a little bit like outdated, I would say. I kind of just wish you could have like 3 profiles. Like, you can't play them all at the same time. So if you want to do 2 accounts, like, then yeah, you have to do that. But I think for League specifically, just because like old school RuneScape is very different because you have access to the whole game. You're not like class restricted. And I think that I don't know if the technology is probably not even worth investing in, if I'm being honest. But I just kind of wish that was like a step forward for leagues. I think that would be that would just be really cool for a lot of people. Some people have talked about like the prestige option where you get to like reset all your stuff. And I kind of feel like that would be awful to have like a button that just resets you always. Like, I don't know if I like that, but yeah, having like 3 profiles, I think that would be kind of cool.
I don't know. I guess this is a little bit of a tough one because part of what makes leagues fun and part of what makes your choices meaningful is the fact that you don't have the ability to go and like do it again. Yeah, you can always bond up another account. I know, like for myself, I perpetually have 3 accounts just because I make content. So I know that's not going to be true for most
Mhm.
people. But like, I have that option just because I naturally have more accounts available to me. But I don't know. I guess I understand because sometimes you make a choice and you're like, that's not really fun. I wish I could go and do the other thing. And so like having that option available to you to play around with would be cool. But at the same time, it does sort of like cheapen the overall experience the first time through, because if you don't get whatever you want, well then you jump to the next profile over. So I don't know.
Yeah, my issue with that, and I totally agree. Like, I think I like the direction of like having pretty permanent choices and stuff like that. Like, you should feel good. I only wonder sometimes if like people try to go for safe options because they're scared of like the risky stuff, right? So like, I think people are sometimes they're because they only have one, right? Like, I think for a lot
Yeah.
of people they only have one. I'd say most people don't play with multiple accounts, right? Most
Yeah.
people aren't
Yeah.
content creators, or like we can easily like have 3 accounts. I'm probably gonna do 3, right? Like, but I think for most people, they see that and they just want to go for like what everybody else is doing, because some really weird kind of wacky thing, like I've talked about like the salamander void build, which I think is really cool and stuff like that. But like, I don't blame anybody for not doing that, because I have no idea if it's gonna be good or not, or if it's gonna be like a complete meme and you're gonna suck. But I mean, you'll still do fine, but I mean, relatively you'll
Yeah.
probably be a little bit weaker and stuff. And I just kind of just wish sometimes that we had that option, just for people to, I guess, feel a little bit more inclined to try out those like off meta builds. I
Yeah.
think that's also a problem of the community though in general. Like, I'm not like, I think it's kind of like there's a balance there where I think people also just gravitate towards meta stuff. It's not just the game design, but I think that definitely adds to it in some capacity.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's a tough challenge to solve for. And like I guess I could see like it does create more longevity as well for the league. I don't know how important that is for like the game mode, for the developers, all of that, right? I mean, like if you're able to play around with different things, you're probably going to be able to like you're going to feel more comfortable playing the league longer. You can play around with these different things, or if you make a mistake early, you can switch profiles, try again. If you're not like too far in, you feel like you can grind it out because you go, oh, I picked Golden God, and then you have fun with it for like 30 minutes. And you're like, man, I really wish I had done something else. So
Yeah.
like having another profile that you could then shift into, I think it would help people who would have burnt out sooner. I'm like, is that good? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I like from that individual standpoint probably, but like from a macro sense, I just don't know if it's like actually a good thing or not for the game mode, because leagues being limited and so like in a number of ways is part of what helps keep it alive every time they do it. And like if you
Yeah, I don't think we would
yeah.
get this much like attention if it was like a more like year-round thing. I think there is a lot of hype for it. Yeah, it's just for me, that's kind of like my one thing. And again, it's a non-issue for me, so maybe I feel kind of weird, so because sometimes I feels like I'm getting upset, or not like upset, but I'm worried about people who aren't even me. But that's just the one thing I've always kind of been a little concerned about with like the Trailblazer format kind
Yeah.
of being or like area restrictions being sort of the key thing moving forward.
Well, and
Otherwise, I think a lot of the changes have been awesome. So I'm not trying to like doomsay it or say like, oh, league sucks or anything like that. It's just my one thing, my one wish. And honestly, again, I don't even know if like they have the technology to do that, because that is completely like redesigned.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I guess this would be a good thing for the folks who happen to be listening still after 2.5 hours. Like if they could just let us know in the comments, like,
They're probably asleep by now.
Do you wish you had more leagues profiles or like other accounts that you could play? If you don't, like, how do you guys feel about that? I'd be curious.
I think another because you talked about this, but like when you burn out of your main account, do you make a second account or do you just go back to the main game, right?
Yeah.
I think that's something I'd be interested to see too.
Yeah. So I guess let us know, all three of you.
Yeah, cool question. I think to wrap it up on and stuff. Man, yeah, that's this one for a while. It's pretty cool though. I love these chats, and I'm always really like, I don't know, I just think they're a good time and stuff like that. It's fun to talk about leagues, and I like the direction that leagues content has been going, where it feels a little bit more of like discussion based as opposed to just like, this is my rank 1 video after 6 hours. No flame to them and stuff like that, but it feels like that was like the seasonal content.
He's one of the 3 people watching right now, and he's just like, oh, these guys, they keep throwing shade.
Yeah.
No, I love the long neck. Please, like, just, oh my, cut it in the editing floor. Like, no, don't put that in there.
Yeah, I'm really excited though to have you. By the way, have you actually come up with your build yet? I know it's probably tough, but do you actually know what you're going for?
Yeah, well, I mean, at least region wise, I'm pretty sold on it, unless they do something just absolutely crazy tomorrow in the reveal. Like Varlamore for sure. Zaya, I'm like pretty locked into, and I don't really have a third that I super love, so I was just gonna pick up Fremnik because it'll help solve smithing with Blast Furnace, and then I can also pick up that jewelry. And the fact that they made Duke Succulus like less terrible, I'm like, okay, I think I can probably put up with that. So that's kind of where I'm going, and then I want to do like a melee build around that. And I'm always a little hesitant to lock in and say like, yeah, I'm for sure gonna get a scythe. Like, I don't know if that's true. And that's part of why I like this build, because I can get some good power out of it with Blood Moon, and then I can also still like play around with what is it, Eclipse Moon for the ranged armor. So like,
right, yeah,
because I want to make range my secondary, so I feel like that could be a fun one to play around with. Also get like the Sunlight Hunter crossbow as well. So I think it gives me a lot of good options where if I don't quite feel like grinding out Chambers of Xeric, or if I'm like not getting lucky on mega rares, then I can still do just fine. So like,
I think Soul Reaper Axe is going to be a really good pickup
that one as well.
Because like I feel like honestly that was the biggest buff is Soul Reaper Axe and Virtus from Duke, because like, dude, he's going to die in like 6 seconds. Like it's going to be so like, you're just, oh man, he's going to get destroyed. It's going to be so disgusting.
Yeah, so I think that's where I'm at. I mean, and again, we'll have to see. I also really like the idea of the Nature's Reprisal as well. So I'm like, if I'm already going to have a melee build, I think having the like amped up melee version of that where I can just shoot stuff from range, like, sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm glad they went with that.
How about you?
I was asking for that, like,
I
was asking that for months. I was like, please give me that so I can hit Zolra and Kriara, and yeah, they gave me the Salamander, so it's pretty sweet. Or the Trumpet, as people are calling it.
But how about you? Or I know you said that you've been switching your build like a bunch, but like, where are you at right now? What do you think?
I've been switching it a lot. I'm probably right now. I'm very much sold on just Blowpipe. I think Blowpipe and Last Stand is like super cool.
You're meaning normal Blowpipe, right? Not the
I just go Toxic Blowpipe. So basically, I want to go like Fremnik, Tyrannwyn, and Moritania, and just like Blowpipe everything, and just go to town until I get so sick of that Blowpipe that I just stop. But I don't know. For me, the cool part about the Blowpipe, the reason why I'm interested in it is because you only get your maximum damage when you're not moving. And that's actually a playstyle that I think I actually made here are my relics that I wish to have, and one of them was like something that gave you more damage while you're standing still, because that is very different. And I think Blowpipe actually kind of encourages that playstyle where you want to try to pick a spot and just not move as much as possible, because you can't move and keep up your damage. And I don't know, I think that's just gonna be a lot of fun to just try to pick a spot, attack boss, and hope it dies before you die. So that's what I'm trying to play around with and see how to like limit the movement to try to like min-max. That just, I don't know, movement's so cool in old school, right? And I think that magic and range kind of cheese it a lot at some of these later fights, because you can just keep moving and dodging everything, whereas melee has to actually like work for it a bit more. So I'm excited to kind of get that mix with ranged.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I know a lot of people were really excited about like the normal Blowpipe once you get up to tier 6 range, and it's just like that little bit more powerful than the Drygore Blowpipe as well. But a lot of people have been looking forward to that.
Yeah, and Drygore Blowpipe was like, that was the big selling point for me the entire like preseason basically,
Yeah.
and now that the toxic blowpipe is 100% accuracy, it's like might as well just go there instead. So have fun.
Yeah. Well, cool. All right. What else you
Yep.
got? Anything?
I think that's it for me. Good chat.
Cool.
Good chat.
Can almost get it to 3 hours. Come on, 15 more
Yeah,
minutes.
almost. Have to have all those pre notes that we did as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool.
Um,
Well, I guess
I think
I'll
that's
yeah. I'll do a little sign off. Good,
yep.
everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining in. Really appreciate you taking the time to chat.
Thanks guys for watching. If you've been watching this long, have fun with leaks, and yeah, we'll see you guys there. It's gonna be a good time. Enjoy.